attendees are in listen-only mode.
Okay, this meeting will now come to order. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming, and thank you for anyone watching online. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Thank you. Good morning, Supervisor Stewart.
Here.
Supervisor Brophy-McGee.
Here.
Supervisor Lesko. Here. Supervisor Gallardo.
Here.
Chairman Galvin.
Here. Good morning, everyone. As always, we start every meeting with an invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance, and someone will be leading that at the invitation of a member of the Board of Supervisors. And today, that is from District 3, Vice Chair Kate Brophy-McGee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to introduce our leader in prayer and pledge. It is Tom Ellsworth, the Director of Maricopa County Planning and Development. I'd like to make some further comments after.
Wonderful. Okay, everyone, please rise.
Our Father in heaven, we're grateful for the opportunity to gather in service to the people of Maricopa County today. We thank Thee for the blessings of liberty, peace, and community, and the ability to work together for the common good. We ask for Thy Spirit to guide us today. Bless us with wisdom, clarity, and unity in our efforts. Let us remember the example of Thy Son, Jesus Christ, and strive to emulate His patience, kindness, and humility. Help us to deal justly, judge righteously, and do good continually, that we may serve with compassion, fairness, and integrity. We offer this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Ellsworth, thank you. Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. Tom Ellsworth is Director of the Maricopa County Planning and Development Department, a role he has held since 2021. He brings more than 25 years of experience in municipal and community planning to that position. He is an Arizona native and holds a master's degree in public administration and a bachelor's degree in urban planning, both from Arizona State University. He is also a member of the American Institute of Certified Planners and the American Planning Association. A quiet, incredibly effective leader I have personally witnessed in action. Tom works closely with a dedicated and talented team to uphold the department's mission, to provide responsive, transparent, and customer-focused service to the residents and businesses of Maricopa County's unincorporated communities. With a focus on innovation and public service, the Planning and Development Department under Tom's guidance remains committed to its core goals of streamlining permitting processes, expanding access to services through improved technology, and promoting responsible land use that balances growth with the preservation of community character. These efforts are rooted in collaboration, integrity, and a strong sense of civic responsibility. Please join me in thanking Director Tom Ellsworth.
Madam Vice Chair, thank you. And Mr. Ellsworth, thank you so much, not only for your service to Maricopa County, but to our community, and also for leading the prayer and pledge today. Okay, we're going to move on. But before we do, as I always say, for anyone who is new here, we have rules of decorum. Members of the public are absolutely allowed to provide public comment for any of the items on today's agenda. And as always, I ask you to respect people exercising their First Amendment rights. And I expect and know that everyone will be behaving accordingly. So we're going to move on to item number 4, Pet Showcase by Maricopa County Animal Care and Control. And Kim is here with a friend.
Yes, good morning. As you can see, this is not Bo. Once again, Bo has been adopted before I could bring him here, which is not surprising. He was really cute. Jasper here, though, he's about 5 years old. He arrived at the shelter about 12 days ago as a stray. As I just learned, he knows a bunch of tricks. So he knows sit, lay down, and I just learned he also knows roll over. So he is very smart. He will also jump into your lap on command, and I think he's most comfortable in a lap. So for anyone looking for a lap dog, he is perfect for that. He can be a little shy at first. If you're a lady, he definitely prefers that. He is a ladies' man, as I've just learned. Zach, I apologize for the interaction. But also, Jasper is easily bribed by treats, so I think we made up. I think that Zach can also take home Jasper at this point. So Jasper, again, very treat motivated, very smart, likes to be a lap dog, and he's already neutered, so he is ready to go home today, and you can find him at our West Shelter.
Awesome. Thank you. Good luck, Jasper. Okay, moving on to item number 5, County Manager Update on Maricopa County Libraries. I'll give just a little overview. This is an issue that is vitally important to all members of the Board of Supervisors. We have spent a considerable amount of time studying and examining this issue, and I dare say that not many jurisdictions across America are taking a look at it, much less working as hard as we are. As I understand, Madam Clerk, there will be 2 speaker slips for this item as well?
Chairman, that is correct.
Okay, but we have a presentation, I believe, from the county manager, so we'll do that first, and then the clerk will call up the 2 names for public comment afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. I'm pleased to provide an update on the parental choice pilot project and also discuss some proposed next steps that we are taking at the library to handle some of the concerns that we have heard from the community. If you can go to the next slide. Wanted to start with a quick overview of our library system. The county has 14 libraries. We have them divided into 3 different categories. First, there are libraries that are owned by the municipality, or in the case of Sun City, by the Recreation Association. And then the building and the utilities are funded by the city, and then the county funds the operations. Then in jurisdictions, the population over 50,000, the building is owned by the municipality, and also the majority of the operations are funded by the municipality, but they essentially contract with us to run the libraries. There is cost savings since we are a large library system to do that. And then finally, we do have fully county-owned and county-funded libraries in Aguila, Sun Lakes, and Waddell. The Anthem Library will be opening, it's moving to a new building and will be opening in spring of 2026 and become a fully county-owned and funded library at that time. Next slide. We have a very robust group of people with active library cards. As you can see, we have 144,000 people with just active cards. We have a physical circulation of books, DVDs, and other materials of about 585,000 pieces. And then those items have been circulated about 3.4 million times in just fiscal year 24 alone. We also have many digital selections available and offer over 4,400 events a year. Next slide. One thing that we're very proud of is our summer reading program. In last year, we had approximately 97,000 summer readers, and we are on pace this year to surpass 100,000 summer readers of all ages, and this is the largest summer reading program in the United States. Next slide. At the direction of the board, on May 1st, we launched a pilot project in the Queen Creek Library to empower parents who want to take an active role in their child's library experience. And it allows parents to identify specific book titles that they do not want their child to access. The library staff then puts a block on those titles, and the child is not allowed to check those books out, either a physical book or the digital book. So the program recently launched, as I mentioned, in May, and so although there are currently no registrations, the Queen Creek Library staff continues to educate and inform customers about this program that we offer so that parents can take a more engaged role in their child's library experience. So if we can move to the next slide. So the next steps that the library is taking to address some of the concerns that have been brought forward to the board and at the board's direction and consultation is that we will be expanding the parental control pilot program to all county libraries to offer this opportunity to parents who visit any of the 14 branches. We are also this week relocating the juvenile sexual mental health books, which is a category of books that are currently in the juvenile section. And those will be located out of the children's section of the library into a section of the library that is frequented only by adult users. We are also working on benchmarking our practices against other jurisdictions and exploring software solutions that would allow parents, if they choose to, that they could restrict entire categories of books and library materials. And we are also developing an unattended minors policy. Many libraries do have a policy that does not allow children under 12 or under 10, for example, to be in the library without a parent or guardian. So we anticipate that we will be able to work on these items and provide another update in September. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have, but thank you again. I think these initiatives really speak to our continued commitment to serve families, promote literacy, and also offer choice and security to parents during this ever-changing information environment.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Pekorski. Our county manager just gave a very wide, comprehensive overview of all of the issues and all the permutations that arise out of them when it comes to dealing with libraries. And once again, this is not about school curriculum, this is about public libraries. And I know all 5 members of the board here take this issue very serious. This is something we hear from our constituents, but it's also an issue that is important for each of us individually. I'm going to go to the supervisors who have either comments or questions, starting with Supervisor Lesko and then Supervisor Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to thank the constituents that have come forward in the past and pointed out specific books that were sexually explicit that were located in the children's section. I was unaware of that until you brought it up. And as you can see, all of the board members are taking, think this is serious, and we are taking actions that we consulted our lawyers to make sure we're not violating any First Amendment rights. But I do think that it is very good steps, and thank you, Manager Pekorski, for your leadership on this, because I just do not agree that we should allow sexually explicit books to be available to young children. And with that, I yield back.
Thank you. Supervisor Stewart.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Supervisor Lesko. You're absolutely right. We've talked about this at length, and I appreciate staff and I appreciate you, Jen, making some common sense moves as it relates to these sexually explicit illustrated books. At the end of the day, we want to ensure that the library is there for the mission that it's there for, and these books don't necessarily fit the mission for educating children under 12, 16, whatever it may be. And so I appreciate this move, and I think it just makes common sense. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Madam Vice Chair?
Just very quickly, my comments at the onset of this policy pursuit are the same. This does not constitute book banning. This is the allowing for parental oversight in the activities their child participates in. I believe that there are enough tools in the toolbox that when put to good use, we can get there. Another important option for me is opting in versus opting out. And the reason I learned that from a very conservative senator in the Arizona legislature, the reason that's so important is, speaking from hard experience, when a paper comes home in my child's backpack, given that I have 3 boys, I never got to see it, but it gave me the option to opt out. And it's like, what? I mean, but you find out after the fact. So what I'm looking for is parents' affirmative decision to opt their child into unrestricted access to all books. If that's what they want to do, fine. But there are some parents who are not aware, and I would like to protect them, and I'd like to protect their children and still provide these books. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Grotto.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Jen, help me understand. These aren't, we're a vendor for the most part on many of these facilities. They're owned by cities and towns. What responsibility do they have? This is their library. We're a vendor. They should be engaged as well. So what activities or what conversations have we had with the Gilbert City Council, Goodyear City Council, Queen Creek City Council. We can go to Litchfield City Council. We can go to Guadalupe Town Council, Fountain Hills, El Mirage. These town council, these mayors, this is their responsibility. What conversations have we had with them since it is their library? We're only a vendor.
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Gallardo, thank you for that question. The Queen Creek Council has been actively engaged in the development of the parental choice pilot project, and the next steps for this would be to expand the pilot project to the other libraries after consultation with those cities and having those conversations to roll out.
And should those cities and towns have a different interpretation or different viewpoint on what we're proposing, what happens then?
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Gallardo, we would report that back to the board and work with our council to determine next steps.
Okay. And Mr. Chairman, I think, some of this stuff that is brought to our attention, the fact that, because I'm a strong believer, you cannot legislate parental choice. You can't. This is parents. Parents have a responsibility. And it does drive me crazy that I see parents, and I mean, I'm not a parent, but if I was, I wouldn't be dropping my young one off at a library. I wouldn't drop them off at a water park. I wouldn't drop them off at a movie theater or a bowling alley. And you see it constantly across the valley. Parents, I get it. They want to keep their young ones active and engaged, and especially during the summertime where it's really hot. And the kids are home, and they're trying to keep them occupied. I get it, and I see it firsthand in my own family. But the idea that parents are dropping them off at a library, and here you go, we're not a daycare center at a library. However, I do think we do have a responsibility to keep our the patrons there, regardless of what age, safe. I think we do have that responsibility to an extent. But the idea that parents are just dropping them off, I do believe there is some parental responsibility. And when parents don't know what their kids are looking at, that's on the parent. That's on them. That's when you bring in Child Protective Services, when the parents are not taking that type of level of responsibility. So I do agree with some of the rules here. I do think we need to tighten it up a little. I think we need to continue to engage our parents, continue to have these discussions. But I do want to put it out there, there is some parental responsibilities. And if parents are not meeting that responsibility, if they're not taking care of their kids, that's a whole nother issue. So, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate the presentation. I look forward to seeing how this all rolls out and how we see this type of program be implemented.
Okay, thank you for all the insight and input. Any other comments or questions from the board? Okay, all right, we're going to move on to the public comment portion of this agenda item. Juanita, please call out the three names, if there are three names to be called up.
Thank you, Chairman. I have two speaker forms on this item. First one is Leslie Shepard, followed by Louis Mar Garza.
Thank you.
These are books. This one specifically was given in front of Gallardo and Thomas Galvin on 8/23/23. You guys are still talking about getting it out of the children's department. I just want to bring that to your attention. Steve, you did say it was those other libraries' responsibility. Well, the county ones were yours, and you overlooked it. The other thing I want to draw to your attention is you guys are talking about something that people have to opt into. The law says it's not an option. It says that absolutely pornographic, sexualized material is not an option for parents. Not when they check it out at your county library. It's not an option, it's the law. So these parents that are running around trying to get people signed in because they said they want to make a dent, maybe some of them are the ones that are supposedly you're the ones you say you're working with, Ms. Lesko, they're out beating the pavement, trying to get people signed up for something that is a law. It's a waste of time. So these books, I'm glad you guys are finally doing something about it because it's been over 2 years since it's been brought to your attention. Thomas Galvin, you gaslight us when you sit here and say it's a big deal for you. You, the day I brought it to your attention, abused me behind the dais. I've dealt with your abuse for years now regarding this subject as well. So I'm just letting you all know, if those books are accessible to the kids, I don't care if it's city, municipal, whatever the private is, it's against the law. Jen, you said that you're going to run this past the other ones that aren't within your jurisdiction. And then you said you would get back. So if they refuse to comply with identifying that it's a law, what is your plan and what is your action that you plan to take, board? Being that you're over the county, what is your action you wish to take if they will not comply? Because we already know you haven't been complying. What are you going to do when they choose not to comply because they don't take the law seriously?
Thank you. Madam Clerk, next speaker.
I asked a question.
Louis Mar Garza.
I asked a question.
There are rules of decorum here
I
that we
know,
just
and
went
I need
over
you
a
to
couple
stick
of
to
minutes
them and quit
ago.
breaking the rules.
And you have to be.
The rules were you're allowed to ask.
Ma'am, please
answer
take
the
a
question.
seat. You're
You've
taking
chosen
away
not
time
to.
from other people. You signed up to speak for 2 minutes.
You have chosen to
Ms.
break
Shepherd,
decorum by
please
not
take a seat.
answering my question.
Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Violating the law for over 2 years, Tom.
Louis Mar Garza.
And you were made aware of it, Mark Stewart, on April 10th, 2024, the same day
Ms.
I made
Shepherd,
them. I
one
made
more
you aware
time.
when you were running for this position, and you've known since then.
Thank you. Appreciate your cooperation. Ms. Garza.
Louis Moore, Zabedi Garza. As to item 5, I checked into your hyperlink and I listened to the presentation, of which I'm sure they spent quite a lot of time from Monday to today. You had a meeting on Monday regarding this topic, and the only one-page portion that you put on here was, is there a financial impact? And you said no. That's the result of that, I believe it was an executive meeting that you had on Monday, one that I think we're not allowed to attend. So I'm wondering how much money was paid for you to come up with no financial detriment, isn't this, even though you said there was a budget set, et cetera, for this pilot program. That being said, I will say to everybody, I'm going to extend the chapter a little bit more. As to ARS 133507, it matters not where in the library labyrinth the book is placed. In all libraries across the state of Arizona and the nation, if any pedophile can grab that book and a child, go into the nearest bathroom stall, and as per ARS 13705B, not commit a crime. They can have masturbatory contact, hand that book to the child, and not commit a crime. So it's taken you 2 years to figure out to do a pilot program. I advised you of this 2 weeks ago, and not one of you are acknowledging it. And the times that you say, oh, we heard our constituents, try mentioning them by name, because the one over my shoulder, the nodding one over my shoulder that you put as a plant, LD29, that started this, so we thank her. That's how stupid the Michael Scotts of this meeting are. Thank you.
Good job. Thank you. Okay. Moving on to item number 6 under statutory hearings. Under Clerk of the Board, petitions hearing for the formation of the proposed Las Palmaritas Irrigation Water Delivery District, and item 7A, owner transferred for Desert Flame. Any speaker comments for these items, Madam Clerk?
Chairman, I have one speaker form from Jeff Singh on item number 6. He is here and available to speak only if necessary in favor.
Okay. Mr. Singh, would you like to speak or no? No. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, the board will now entertain a motion for items 6 and 7A.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of items 6 and 7A.
Madam Vice Chair, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Supervisor Stewart. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, moving on under transportation, items 8 through 11, patent easement abandonments as listed on the agenda. Madam Clerk, any speakers for these items?
Chairman, we did receive one speaker form from Ray Dalton. He wishes to speak on item number 8, which is the road file number PAB 0289. And if Mr. Dalton would let us know what his position is when he approaches the podium, because it's not marked on the
Okay,
form.
thank you. Mr. Dalton, please come forward. Thank you, sir. Good morning. Are you in favor or opposed to this item?
Not either one, actually.
Okay. Please proceed.
The point that I'm making is, as a landowner and in that area out there, when this notice was sent to me about the abandonment, I've gone through years and years of dealing with these, what we call BLM easements in that area out there. And it's been complicated over the years, to say the least. On the map that was sent to myself and others, it showed easements around property that we have that are gone, but they're on the map. And that the county, according to what we have here from the BLM, the county does not have jurisdictions over those easements. And there were 4 of us years ago that challenged this and went to the BLM, and the BLM released those easements. They served no purpose, and they released them. And yet, the map that came out from the county shows that they are on there. My question is, who's in control of the easements? It's BLM property, but the county apparently wants to have jurisdiction over dropping those easements. Now, I think they should be dropped, actually. I've been 15, 20 years trying to get these things dropped, but the fact that the county has the interest in this, that apparently feels that they have the jurisdiction to drop these easements, I question that, because I have documents here from the U.S. government that they have dropped it, along with the utilities, the APS, all the utilities involved with it. They're all gone. And now they show up on this map as easements.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dalton. Appreciate it. This is in District 3, Vice Chair Brophy McGee, so I want to ask you if you'd like to follow up with Mr. Dalton after the meeting, or if you would like staff to come down and address this.
I would like staff to come down and answer the questions and figure it out from there, but thank you, because you're not necessarily opposed, you just are not certain we have the jurisdiction. Is that the question you asked, sir?
I'm not necessarily opposed. I'm thinking about the longer effects of this, like who is the one in charge? Who actually can claim ownership of these easements? Because the BLM, the feds, they're the ones that said that they had it. They're the ones that put them on it, and they're the ones that have taken it off of certain lots in that area because they serve no purpose.
Okay.
And thank you very much. I will ask Transportation and Real Estate to address your questions, and let's see if we can get it answered.
And gentlemen, I will ask
sit here?
that-
Yes,
Yeah,
please.
Please have a seat. And then, gentlemen, I'll ask you, please identify yourselves before you speak.
Good morning. I'm Jesse Gutierrez. I'm the Director of Transportation, County Engineer.
Alex Smith, Director of Real Estate.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, what we're talking about here on this item is a patent easement abandonment. A patent easement. Thank you. So sorry about that. The patent easement abandonment is basically, these are patent easements, not the BLM easements. These are patent easements granted to the public through the Small Land Tract Act of 1938. And what this really does is it simply provides access for utilities and general access for the public, generally for roads. And through that assignment, Maricopa County DOT is the custodian of these easements. In essence, we have an ordinance that gives us the authority to manage these easements in terms of keeping them, reserving them for use in the future, and/or abandoning them if they're not needed. So.
Thank you. Alex, do you have some follow-up on that in terms of the specific easements addressed in items 8 through 11? Either or both of you, please.
Yeah, Jesse can address the specifics, but we do map all the patent easements. We keep track of the abandonments. If the gentleman has additional documentation he would like to show us, we'd be happy to look at it.
Okay. And what's the best way for this gentleman to get in contact with you?
I'll step back there and get in contact with him.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I think we have enough information to go forward with a vote, unless you two tell me no.
Mr. Chairman and Supervisor Brooks McGee, I believe that if there's no opposition specifically to this particular abandonment at 35th and New River, I would recommend we move forward with the vote.
And sir, I wanted to make sure you got your questions answered in terms of BLM versus county. And it would appear that the county's been assigned custodies of these patent easements, and that in turn we dispose of them. Does that make sense? And would you, of course, like to have a follow-up conversation?
Like I said, this is a long-going problem out there. These are what we call BLM lots. They're 5-acre lots generated by someone in Washington, and here it is. These easements were laid out that if there's a wash or hill or whatever, somewhere in these easements you can find your lot and get to it. Mm-hmm. Well, those of us that have the frontage road on one side and the freeway on the other, they serve no purpose. There was an attorney, is an attorney in Carefree, Carolyn Despendippy. She took the job, didn't really leave her office that much, but was in contact with Klein, Sue Klein, with the government, and those easements were dropped. Not only were they dropped, but to...
Sir, are you talking about the easements addressed in items 8 through 11? I don't mean to interrupt you, but I think a further conversation and filling in the history would be of help to you and to our staff. Seeing as how I seem to have a lot of these in my district, we go over every single one before every single meeting to ensure that people's access to their well or to the roadway, or in fact the roadway themselves are not blocked. But I think there is a big patch of history that I know our staff can provide for you. We are legally able to and actually obligated to dispose of patent easements. So may I ask Alex to speak to this gentleman after the conclusion of this item? And thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Where will that meeting occur?
Right here.
He's going to come and find you.
Behind me.
In a good way.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you all.
Mr. Chairman,
Madam Vice Chair?
assuming no other comments from the board, I would like to motion approval of patent easement abandonments 8 through 11.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Supervisor Stewart. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, moving on to Board of Supervisors consent agenda. Consent agenda items are listed on the agenda. I want to now ask the board, are there any items you wish to pull from the consent agenda? None? Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I have a couple of acknowledgements on items 13 and 14, which are some appointments
Okay.
related to my district.
Okay, if there are no items being pulled from the consent, if you don't mind, we can do the comments after the vote.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or requests?
Similar to the supervisor, just a brief comment after the vote.
Okay, thank you. All right, the board will now entertain a motion for the consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of consent agenda items 12 through 85 as presented.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you very much. Madam Vice Chair. Oh, I'm sorry. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Motion carries unanimously. Now, Madam Vice Chair, and then Supervisor Gardo.
I'd like to acknowledge my friend, longtime friend, and political partner in arms, Chris Shipley, and thank him for his service on the CDAC board. And I would also like to thank and acknowledge Derek Rockwallick, also a longtime friend, very policy knowledgeable young man, for his appointment to the Board of to the Planning and Zoning Commission. I want to thank them both. And Kevin Curley is an amazing young man. I wanted to thank him for his service as he exits planning and zoning and his continued service on the chairman's task force.
Thank you. And
Thank
Planning Commission is a very important job, so thank you to those who have served and will serve. Supervisor Gardo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and similar to Supervisor Brophy McGee, just a quick shout out. David Galavis is in my office. He's out here somewhere, who also is being reappointed to the Community Development Advisory Committee, pulling double duties in the evening. So I appreciate it so much. So many of these boards and commissions are so important. They get overlooked sometimes, but they're so important, and they're a valuable part of how we operate here in Maricopa County. So I appreciate everyone's participation on all these different boards and commissions. It's a test to try to convince folks that, the importance of serving in these capacities at times, but nonetheless, I just appreciate all the different citizens that are volunteering their time, taking away time from their families and their day-to-day lives to be able to serve on these types of different advisory boards and committees. So big shout out, but big thank you to David Galavis. I see Adolph Gomez is another one who is being reappointed as well. So great people.
Okay, thank you both for your appointments. Okay, moving on. Under procurement, number 86, elections comprehensive review, and I will start off by saying this is yet another issue that is of extreme importance, not only to the county, but especially to this members of the board, all 5 of us. This is something we have been working on since January with its own unique permutations when it deals with procurement. We're going to have a presentation from staff, so I asked them to come forward at this time. And then, Madam Clerk, how many speaker slips do we have for item number 86?
Chairman, we received 6 requests to speak on item number 86.
Okay, 6. Okay, great. Staff, thank you for joining, and please identify yourselves for everyone watching and listening, and then please proceed with your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Kevin Tyne. I am the Director of the Office of Procurement Services.
Thank you. I'm Susan Adams. I'm the Director of the Internal Audit Department.
Okay, thank you both.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, if we can go to the first slide. I just thought it would be useful and helpful for you to see the timeline of this process. This was a request for proposal process to evaluate, as you well know, the elections processes. So back on February 26th, the board took action and approved a budget adjustment to the Internal Audit Department to fund this comprehensive review of elections. So as of February 27th, sorry, it's kind of small writing, trying to get all the timeline on there, but as it says, February 27th, we developed the scope of work, shared that with the board members, and worked on what the board's priorities were in evaluating the election processes. By March 6th, the scope of work and the entire solicitation was ready to go, and we put it out and advertised it formally on our e-procurement webpage and made it available. It was sent out to over 5,600 vendors. There were at least 40, I believe it was 47 vendors that reviewed it and moved forward. We then, on March 27th, as it says, we established an evaluation committee. As members know, the process for a request for proposal procurement process is that we establish a evaluation committee. In this case, the Internal Audit Department were the experts that have experience, understand the process of reviews and audits and things of that nature. So we made that up in March. The responses were due on April the 1st, 2025. Right before that time, in consultation with the Internal Audit Department, we determined there was a handful of vendors, and I'll get to that in the next slide, but we made a determination that we might want to extend it for an additional week, which is a common practice, and see if we could get additional competition and more vendors to possibly respond to the solicitation, which we did. So we extended it until April 8th, ultimately closed and opened those proposals formally, and again, I'll get to that on the next slide. We distributed those proposals specifically to the evaluation committee for their review. They are counseled through this process to independently do their evaluation and score and then come back together. So we did that, and by April 21st, the evaluation scoring happened and the evaluators made their selections. And ultimately came forward with a recommendation, as is on the agenda today, that Barry Dunn, the vendor, was the most advantageous for the board to move forward and meet the needs and what was spelled out in the solicitation. We'd conducted and kind of hammered out the contract through best and final and whatnot, and ultimately by May 6th, we had a signature from the vendor and had that ready to go for the board meeting in May. I will point that there was brought up that this vendor back in 2023 had experienced a data breach. Unfortunately, data breaches do happen and are in many respects unavoidable, but they do happen. And so we reached out to the vendor and asked them to address, and I can let Susan talk about what you look for from the vendor, but we asked for them to specifically discuss and tell us and give us the assurances we need that they had appropriately handled that and that the county would be protected moving forward with this comprehensive review. We also took the additional step of checking with our ETI department, which is does technology for the county, asked them to look at it and look at the vendor's response. They looked at it and came back and said that the response is appropriate given the nature of the breach and that the corrective actions that were implemented, it does not appear that any security control for which Barry Dunn was specifically responsible failed or was bypassed. So both the audit and the vendor's response and our IT folks gave us the confidence that the data breach had been properly addressed. So we were ready to go with a recommendation on May the 21st. The board decided that they wanted some additional information, and so you chose to continue it. I know there was some discussion about this was supposed to start per the responses in June. The evaluation was to start in June. Obviously, with the continuance, plus there was an unexpected or unanticipated special election that was that impacted the elections department, and so ultimately we worked with all of the vendors that put forward a response that would have complied with the solicitation to get this started in June. But we worked, and it was the county that was not able to meet that June, so the vendor was able and to acquiesce and work with us towards the July, and that's why there's a July timeframe based on if the board moves forward with this. Next slide, please. Just real quickly, I just wanted, I know this had come up with some of your board members had received emails and whatnot. So the official bids, there were 7 responses that were brought forward. The first one, as you'll see, was in March 7th, and it was a no bid. They basically said, thanks, but we're not interested. Then there were 3 that were received by April the 1st, and you can actually see the time dates that the county received those solicitations from those vendors. Barry Dunn submitted on April 1st at 6:51 a.m. and so on down the line. And then after our continuation of the 1 week to extend and try and bring on additional vendors, there were 3 additional submissions. You will see the last one ultimately waited, the closure time was at 2 o'clock that day. They waited till 1:59. In the end, per the solicitation, they have to have all of the attachments and all of the required information submitted in order to be considered, and that vendor did not get all of the required information in, so they were determined non-responsive. So that allowed for the evaluation panel to review 5 formal responses to this solicitation. I'll turn it over to Susan on the next slide.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Supervisors. Before I get right into the evaluation criteria, I want to step back just a little bit and talk about the evaluation committee itself to the degree that I can share. Back when the board approved moving forward with this in February, it was determined at that time that internal audit was in the best position to perform an evaluation of the RFP responses given their knowledge and their independence. And this was done in order to ensure an impartial selection. The committee was made up of professionals, senior staff level members within the internal audit department. Each member had sufficient knowledge, certifications, experience, and independence to review and assess each RFP response. The experience included both audit experience, which is important for this project, and also proposal review experience. The committee members received training ahead of time from OPS regarding the review process. I'm sorry, yes, from procurement. So when the committee members received the responses, they independently, meaning independent of one another, reviewed and evaluated each of the responses. Using their professional expertise, they applied a score based on the responders' qualifications, proposed staff planning, staff profiles, and that would include the staff's independence, their qualifications, their certifications, and their experience. They also considered their proposed solution, which is basically what is the approach they plan to take for the work that they will be doing, and their compliance with the proposed timeline to complete the work and the deliverables. And I just wanted to share that so that you would have information about the committee and the process that they took in doing the evaluations.
Okay, and so, Mr. Chairman, members, ultimately, the Office of Procurement Services administered this, made sure that we were following the procurement code and statutes as required in that process, and that the evaluation was done without the outside influence or outside interruptions, that each of them individually scored, evaluated based on their expertise, and in the end, they brought forward a recommendation for Barry Dunn as the consensus from the evaluation panel was that they were the most advantageous on all 6 of the criteria that were developed in the solicitation, and that is the recommendation that is in front of you today.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Liddy, I'm going to ask you to come up here and sit with staff, just in case there are any questions directed to you or anything you need to respond, or anything that might come up at all. And
My pleasure, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. And then I want to ask Kevin and Susan, if you're available to do so, can you kind of walk us through the scope itself of the solicitation and what the board was asking for in terms of soliciting input and what we're trying to achieve here? Because I think this is important for people to understand.
You go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman and supervisors. The scope of the review was to perform a comprehensive review of the election process performed by the election department. And it was designed to include 6 focus areas, one being chain of custody, physical security, the candidate filing compliance, temporary worker hiring and training, ballot drop boxes, and vote center selection and setup. And it was decided that this would give a good look into all of the components of the functions of and processes of the election department to determine if those things were being done appropriately in accordance with law and efficiently as well.
Okay, thank you. And it is indeed, as you can see, comprehensive. Those are a lot of topics in a wide range. What, if any, overlap is there with the recorder's office and the recorder's responsibilities and duties involved in this audit, if at all?
Mr. Chairman, supervisors, my understanding is that there is some involvement in the area of chain of custody with the recorder's office. There's components that are performed by elections, and then there's handoffs to recorder and handoffs back to elections. The specific details I would have to
Okay, thank you. And it's my understanding, and please confirm if I'm correct or let me know if I'm incorrect, but there was outreach made to the recorder's office before this process began. Asked the recorder's office they would like to be participating in this and like to be involved with this, and the recorder responded affirmatively and said yes, correct?
Mr. Chairman, yes, I was part of that conversation, and that was the outcome that was expressed at that time.
Right, and from my perspective, we're extremely grateful for the recorder for his enthusiastic response and willingness to participate in cooperation. That's good for everyone involved. Mr. Liddy, in the presentation, Kevin talked about the evaluation aspect of it, and including the evaluation committee. As I understand it, I'm not asking you to give legal advice, but it's more for the perspective and for the edification of the audience. This procurement process is a very sensitive process for every elected official in Arizona, regardless if you're at the city level, the county level, or the state level. And one thing I know, regardless of party, regardless of experience, every single elected official takes the procurement process seriously because there's strict laws about this, because what we want to have is an independent process basically to ward off corruption. That's the fear, right? That people don't want a corrupt process. So as I understand it, elected officials are not involved in procurement. There's an independent process and an independent body that evaluates and selects the vendor for whatever procurement process is taking place. But the elected officials, the elected body, basically are giving the green light whether or not to go ahead, but not in terms of the merits of the vendor and the bids, because that was already done, let's say, from a firewall perspective on the other side. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct, Mr. Chairman. I don't know if I could explain it any more clearly than you just have, other than the background of throughout the millennia, people in power have abused that power in order to put their thumb on the scale when using taxpayer funds in order to select a vendor, maybe for their cousin or their friend or an ideological colleague or somehow. So the legislature of the state of Arizona, in its wisdom, has created a series of statutes, which are Arizona 41-2501 at SEEK, which lays out the requirements and the best practices to avoid those very situations. And there's a dual benefit. Not only are the people protected against an abuse of such power, thumb on the scale, corruption, as you would say it, but the elected representatives are also protected against specious allegations of corruption. So what they lay out very specific rules that are the best practices in order for government entities to procure services. And in this instance, they set up an office. You guys have set up and created an office of procurement services with professionals and with professional guidelines and policies that are all in accordance with the federal statutes. And that's how they proceed, not what they think is a good idea, but the best practices as they are following the statutes of the state of Arizona. And that's why even they don't select the vendors. They set up a committee, as has just been explained to you in some detail, and that committee doesn't get to do what they think is best. They have to follow specific procurement guidelines and policies, and as if you've heard, they have to go through a training on the legally required process before they do it, and then they carry out those processes, and the county does not deviate from that. And from having those policies and not deviating from it, they get the benefit of the people knowing that there's been a fair evaluation, a selection of a vendor, and the elected representatives are protected against specious allegations of them putting the thumb on the scale.
Okay, thank you. And I have only a couple more questions before I'm going to turn to the other board members. So the process that we're undergoing today, as I take it, is a very common process. It's a very unique process, but the procurement office and the auditor go through this quite often, whether it's with the Department of Transportation, whether it's with Department of Public Health, any other agency. It goes exactly like this, with an independent committee that selects the so-called winning bid, and then the Board of Supervisors or any other elected body are just merely given the green light whether or not to go ahead with that contract, correct?
That is exactly correct, Mr.
Okay,
Chairman.
thank you. And I think the independent aspect of this is what gives people faith in the system of how procurement works, all the way down from the state level down to the local level, and everything we're doing is prescribed by state law.
That's exactly right. It's what the lawyers call arm's length, to keep the elected representatives from arm's length from the minutia of the selection process to ensure that there's no undue influence.
Okay, thank you. Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you. To that point, what if there was interference on the part of an elected official? What is the committee, what's supposed to happen? What happens if that occurs?
Well, as from the lawyer's perspective, we would become very busy because there would be a lot of litigation about it. As we used to say in the Marine Corps, you'd find yourselves in a world of hurt. If you've got a statute that requires the establishment of an Office of Procurement Services and guidelines, and you deviate from that, you are violating the law. And when you violate the law, the entire process of selecting the vendor is going to be challenged by plaintiffs.
Thank you.
Okay, Supervisor Lesko.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to, following up with Mr. Liddy's explanation of our procurement code, I wanted to read part of our procurement code in Maricopa County so that the public understands the process and why it should be independent as it was done. First, it says section MCI 329D says that all information contained in the proposals is confidential until award of contract or cancellation of solicitation. Then another section says the chief procurement officer, in this case Kevin Tyne, shall select and appoint a selection committee to evaluate the proposals, which you did with the experienced, certified, whatever you want to call them, auditors in the internal audit department, and make a recommendation based on the criteria set forth in the request for proposals. And this part is particularly, I want the public to know, no member of the Board of Supervisors or their district staff shall participate in the evaluation of the proposals. And I can tell you from personal experience that I did not participate. I had no knowledge of, all of a sudden I'm getting emails of how much the other bidders cost. I have no knowledge of that. Nobody should have knowledge of that because it is private. But, and it says proposals shall be evaluated on the factors set forth in the request for proposals. No other factors or criteria may be used in the evaluation. So my question to either Mr. Tyne or the auditor is, are the dollar amounts bid by the applicant vendors public?
I can take that. Mr. Chairman, Supervisor, the recommended award is on the agenda today of an amount up to $400,000 as the successful vendor. The rest of the, under an RFP process, the rest of the information, the proposals themselves that were submitted are to remain confidential until after award. An award is after the vote and the chairman's signature of the paperwork and contract. So that information is not available to the public, is not to be released.
So no one would know the dollar amount of the bids from these companies except for the Barry Dunn one, which was up to $400,000. And so I have received, I don't know if the other supervisors have received, emails, and it's been put on social media, that one of the other bidders was bidding $100,000. I have no idea if that's accurate or not because it's not public. It's not, it's confidential, it's sealed, so on and so forth. So, do you have any idea, Mr. Tyne, how somebody would know what other people bid?
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor, I can only deduce that the vendors themselves who know their submittal and what they propose to the county, if they choose to share their information, that's, it certainly didn't come from the county.
Thank you. And Mr. Tyne, would it be reasonable to assume that the people writing in, they know someone in those companies and they are trying to influence the board to select their friends?
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor, I don't know if I have evidence of that other than to suggest that this information is not released to the public by the county.
Thank you. And Mr. Tyne, I have another question related to the price. I have heard, again, from some public members that other vendors submitted lower prices. Again, I don't know if that's true or not because it's not public. But can you please explain what factors you use to select a vendor and how price plays a role in it? Was price one of the things that you looked at?
Absolutely, Mr. Chairman, Supervisor. The solicitation actually sets forth what they're to evaluate, and the statute and the procurement code make clear that the evaluators are to evaluate and set forth those criteria in order. And so, yes, the proposal was to be evaluating qualifications, as was on a previous slide, qualifications, the proposal themselves that included price, so qualifications, experience, their submission, their solution as to how they were going to do a comprehensive review, and then the overall fee schedule. And so, yes, those were absolutely in the solicitation, made clear that those would be the selection factors. And they were, again, this was not an IFB procurement process, which would simply be low bid, which would simply be the lowest bid wins. This was a request for proposals following that process in the code that took into account the qualifications, experience, and price.
And so I really appreciated your explanation, both of your explanation of the process and what you did and everything and so forth. So just so that I understand clearly, please confirm for me. So what you did is you took the 5 remaining companies that were actually submitted a bid and submitted all the materials and time, and the selection committee, this independent group, independent of each other, they didn't talk to each other about it, went through all the different criteria, did some type of scoring system, and was Barry done ahead in the scoring system in all of the categories. Are you able to talk about that at all?
Well, I guess the answer to that, Mr. Chairman, Supervisor, would be that this was a multiple award option, so the solicitation that went out was on the 6 criteria that the board, wanted to review, and ultimately, you could have had more than one vendor come forward and be recommended for approval to review certain portions of this. The evaluators reviewed, and I'll let Susan talk to that, but the recommendation that is in front of you is that Barry Dunn was recommended in all 6 of the data of what's to be reviewed per the solicitation. So they were recommended as the most advantageous on all 6 counts.
And thank you, Mr. Tynes. So my understanding from what you said then is that multiple vendors could have, like, let's say one vendor could have covered the chain of custody, goal. Another one could have had the drop boxes. But based on this independent audit committee, Barry Dunn scored the most based on your criteria on all of them.
And that's the recommendation in front of the board. I'll let Susan, if she wants to add to that.
Chairman, Supervisors, okay. So when we saw that all of the respondents had responded to all 6 areas, saying that they were all interested and capable of doing all the areas that were proposed, we made a decision that it would be in the best interest of the county, the most efficient, gaining economies of scale, and avoid learning curves over and over, to select one vendor to do across the board. However, when the evaluations were done, each individual scope area was evaluated separately. The scoring of that, I don't have the details on.
And Mr. Chairman, Supervisor, so ultimately that was allowed under the solicitation process, that it could be multiple or it could be one, but they did evaluate on chain of custody, physical security, candidate filing compliance, and so on.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Another concern that was brought to me was that Barry Dunn performed audits for Maricopa County previously. One was in 2018, I think the other one was in 2021, and that if Barry Dunn was awarded the bid, they would just be reviewing their previous work. Is that a legitimate concern? Why and why not? Why not?
Mr. Chairman, members, that's not ultimately a disqualifying factor at all. If there was some evidence of impropriety or dissatisfaction with the work previously that was documented, that might come up, but that was not the case here. So no, it's not relevant to the solicitation that was put forward to meet the requirements that the board, wanted evaluated.
And Susan, can you delve into that a little bit deeper, because I had asked for this previously from you, and you came up with this whole grid chart of what the internal audit department had done on election-related things and what Barry Dunn had done in the past. And so can you specifically address the concern that people have brought up that Barry Dunn would just be auditing itself again, because I thought the chart was really good, what you wrote in there, to me at least.
Chairman, Supervisors, I'd be happy to address that. When the work, there was 2 pieces of work that were performed previously by Barry Dunn. To get one out of the way right away, it was in 2021. It had to do with a procurement evaluation of voting system and related equipment. That is not part of the purview of this comprehensive review that we're proposing doing at this time, so that wouldn't be an issue because it's not included.
Yeah, so just to make clear, so that one, particularly the one done in July of 2021 by Barry Dunn, was specifically targeted on the procurement process of a vendor or your procurement process, but in the scope of what we are auditing, voting on, auditing now, we're not even auditing the procurement process, and so therefore it wouldn't apply. Is that what you're saying?
Chairman, Supervisors, yes, that is correct.
Okay. And then the one in 2018?
Yeah, okay, so the one in 2018 was election, it was a review performed at the Recorder's Office of Election Day processes and related issues. This was before changes had been made, a lot of changes that had been made to the whole election process at Maricopa County. It was the environment being reviewed today has had new legislation, there's been new laws, there's new ownership of processes, there's been changes of policies, procedures, and processes that are different today than they were back when this work was performed in 2018. I would also add that the work that was performed in 2018 was very, very specific, which means the scope was very narrow. And it was designed to prepare for the general election that was going to be performed in November. And the goal was to make sure that elections were ready to run properly and efficiently in November of that year. So they came in at the end of September. They were only in for a couple of weeks, meaning they being Barry Dunn, was only in there for a couple of weeks, and then they needed to summarize their information, provide a report, and allow for any changes to be performed in preparation to be ready for that general election. So there's 2 factors here. First, they didn't look at a lot, and secondly, the environment today, it's like a new day. It's like a different system, so it's completely different. I would also add, outside of this work, just in the general world of audit, it's not uncommon for auditors to go back and audit processes that they have audited in the past. That is a very common thing. The concern is more if they're implementing changes or systems or processes, then there would be a conflict of interest, and that would be of greater concern.
Thank you. And if I remember right, in the report, I read somewhere that after this internal audit of the elections in 2018 and then the Barry Dunn limited audit, that there was the board at that time decided to have some kind of working group, and then they made recommendations, right? And so that's why, partially the reason why so much has changed since 2018.
Chairman, Supervisors, that is correct. There was a working group formed, and they looked at elections inside and out, as I understand it, and proceeded the direction to where we are today, I believe.
Thank you. And Mr. Chair, my last question, I think, is going to be actually for Mr. Shira. And so if he can just come forward. Mr. Shira, can you say your name or?
Hi, Mr. Chairman, Board Member Zach Shira, Assistant County Manager for Elections and External Affairs.
Mr. Shira, I imagine, although I haven't gotten this already, this concern, I'm sure that it's going to come up. Can you explain to me what are your thoughts on the elections department being audited, and were you involved in this in any way? Because some people will go, oh, they're just, picking these people based on what you want, blah, blah, blah. And so could you explain that to me?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Lesko. I'll take the second question first, start with that. My office and the Elections Department only had interaction in this process to provide you all, the board, an understanding of how to complete this comprehensive review within the election timeframes that we have ongoing in this year 2025, possibly going into the year 2026. And so we advised you on how we could how you all could complete these audits with your internal auditor, independent from the county manager, during those elections timeframes, including, as we have all learned, with the elections timeframes changing, given the CD7 election. So beyond that, and then the normal course of interaction that a department would have with internal audit when setting up an audit scope, that is the limit to our connection to this effort. Otherwise, this is an independent effort put on by your independent auditor that reports up to you and not the county manager. To your first question about how I feel about the elections department being audited, we welcome this. I'm sure most of us know at this point, our elections director, Scott Jarrett, is a former auditor. He understands the benefits to having auditors come in and analyze our processes and to improve them. Whether it's been public or not, we have had some very public audits like Barry Dunn, Pro V&V, SLI compliance in the past, but our elections department has also had just minor process improvement audits that we have done ourselves that the Board of Supervisors hasn't commissioned. So we value process improvement. We value others coming in and taking a look at our work. We don't check our own homework, as some like to say, and so we are eager to have Barry Dunn come in once again to help us comb through the 6 main scopes of the elections process, to help us understand if we're missing any ways that we can perform this better, and to ensure that this board has the confidence that your elections department is performing its elections responsibilities within the law and in the best way for the voters of Maricopa County.
Thank you. And Mr. Chair, I don't have any more questions at this point. I think, and I really appreciate the staff explaining the process and Mr. Liddy explaining why it has to be independent from the Board of Supervisors, why we need this independent process. And so I think you've done a good job of explaining this, and I appreciate it, and I yield back.
Thank you. And Mr. Chair, I'm going to ask you to take a seat. I'm going to ask Mr. Liddy to come back up just in case any similar questions come up. Mr. Stewart.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for those great questions. Supervisor Lesko, you actually helped me cross a few off my list. One of the things I'm curious about is, can we add scope to this if we find issues during the audit process? Can we add scope? For example, it's very clear that we are handcuffed in a way by state statute as it relates to what we can even know about this process, right? We have no idea cost. We have no idea that necessarily the people that applied until later, right? And so would it be possible to add scope to this RFP if there's something else we'd like? For example, I would love for the audit group to provide us direction to give to the state legislature in order to build best-in-class elections within the entire state. Does that make sense? Right? And so would we be able to add something like that later? I know we started off with these 6, but can we add more later?
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Stewart, I think you should look at this particular audit as having 4 corners around it. The way it was selected and the way it should be completed. Once that's completed, you will get all of the information, all the fruits of the labor of the selected vendor you will receive. that would be the time that you would evaluate that and make a determination of what recommendation you'd want to make to the legislature or not. And there would be no prohibition or no inhibition in doing that. But that would be independent of this particular procurement process in which you selected this vendor. And so if there's something you want to do in the future, you want another audit, you would go through the process again.
So I think what you're saying is that they may give us recommendations that then we would have to package up and take to our legislators in order to make some changes.
That is what I'm saying, but
Yeah.
I think.
Mr. Chairman, yes, that ultimately we put out a solicitation with the requirements of what we wanted all the vendors competitively to propose. And so we would probably want to, if we want to add something, we might want to look at that in a separate venue. But I do, Mr. Chairman, Supervisor, want to correct that the names of the respondents was actually public as of April 8th. Once the solicitation closes, all of the public gets to see the names of the vendors. So that wasn't held or secret. That was public.
Correct. When we closed the RFP
On April 8th.
Exactly. Okay. On that note, the 600 groups that we sent this out to, do they need to be registered with the county in order to apply?
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor, the process, we don't do it by paper anymore where people are running down with notebooks and having their couriers get the responses in by the deadline. We have an e-procurement process that does require people to sign up. It's free, it's available, and our staff works with vendors all over. Once you're in the e-procurement system, it is set up to actually email when there is possible business or solicitations that are out on the street. So it actually contacts vendors. In this case, there was over 5,600 vendors that were contacted by this system and told that this is available. In addition, we work with internal audit and the board if there are vendors that they're interested in making sure that they want to be aware of this. We can make them aware of it prior to the release of the solicitation, and so, prior to the opening of the solicitation and closing of it. So there were over 5,600 vendors that were contacted. There were, as I think I mentioned, 47 different vendors that reviewed in the e-procurement system that we have, and ultimately we got the 7 respondents, 5 of which were found to be responsive and responsible.
Thank you. And so 5,550 some odd vendors didn't even look at the application.
Yeah, that's common.
And so we just kind of put it out there as like a newsletter, if you will, and if they see it, then they can apply to it. So we're not actively emailing.
No, actually, Mr. Chairman, the way the setup is that vendors, when they sign up for the system, they actually put in what businesses they might be interested in, whether they sell a product or whether they provide a service. Based on those, what they put in and want to be alerted to, the system alerts them when it meets those interests that they actually put into the system.
Gotcha. Okay, I appreciate that. That's all the questions I have for now. Chairman,
Okay,
thank
great.
you.
I have a couple follow-up questions. I'm sorry, Madam Vice Chair, do you have any questions? Gardo? Okay. I think Supervisor Stewart asked a couple of great questions that actually have given me some thought that I want to follow up on. So regarding recommendations regarding policy from state law, so what we're doing here, this scope is just for our procedures, how we do things on our end, whether or not we're good at it or whether or not we can make improvements. However, if the vendor selected comes back and says, you know what, you're doing everything you can here, but here's a pitfall, here's a trap, then it's on us as the elected officials to make a policy call and then decide whether or not we want to engage with state lawmakers or the governor about improvements in the process. Is that how that would work, Mr. Liddy?
That is correct, Mr. Chairman. However, I would add one thing, is that all of your election processes are informed and fall within the auspices of the state law.
Right.
Okay, so if once this audit is completed and recommendations come in, a recommendation A might be something that you can do that already falls within the statute. Recommendation B might be something that's very creative that, and you could check with your counsel at the time, may not be permitted by the election statutes. At that point, you might want to go and speak to the legislature to say, this is a recommendation, it could be a best practice, it may be done in another jurisdiction. We're not permitted to do it under our statute, but if you make an adjustment to the statute, we could, and we recommend that you do.
Yeah, so for example, they could come back with a list of 30 items where they're like, hey, you're not optimal here, you should do better on items 1 through 30, but by the way, item 31, not your fault, perhaps you should consider going down and getting the law changed or lobbying for a law change.
Exactly correct, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. And then regarding e-procurement, I think, Kevin, you answered the question as I was thinking about it. There are 5,000 folks that are registered on the system, but if they are ever interested in elections work, they can toggle that. So if there's anything related to elections in the audit process or in the procurement process, they immediately get notified by it. They get it dinged by an email, right?
Mr. Chairman, yes, I would just correct you, though, that there are thousands and thousands of vendors that provide goods and services to the county, far over. But the 5,600 were those that had put in similar to an audit or a comprehensive review or consulting of some sort, and therefore over 5,600 vendors were contacted because they had this specific check mark on.
Okay, thank you. And the way I consider that part of the process is us casting out a fishing line, trying to catch a fish, right? And then casting a net. And so beyond the 5,000 that are already notified because they toggled for notification, there's word of mouth. Perhaps they don't think that that's something that's good for them at the moment, but they might know someone else. They even might know a competitor, or they just know a friendly colleague in the industry and say, hey, you may not know about this, but you should, think about applying. And the other thing I know for a fact, because I did it, is that the Board of Supervisors themselves can also publicly notify members of the public and say, hey, today we voted to begin the process of a comprehensive review of our election procedures. If you're interested, please apply. And just speaking for myself, I know I did that on the internet and I provided links. So there's various ways that people were able to be notified.
In fact, Mr. Chairman, if I can respond to that, I failed to mention that in addition, there's a requirement that all of our solicitations are advertised in the newspaper of record on top of the e-procurement and on top of all of those efforts. And our newspaper of record is the Arizona Republic, so it was advertised per statute, that's requirement. It was advertised twice in the newspaper of record for the general public to also see.
And one more thing, I think Supervisor Stewart wants to follow up, is that also there was considerable news attention as well that attracted national attention. So if anyone saw that and was interested in applying, that's another way that they would find out about it.
Mr. Chairman, I would add that this open meeting is required by law, and in these very meetings, every member of the board, including you, Mr. Chairman, and especially Supervisor Lesko, were very open about their desire to initiate this process and let it know. So that's a matter of public record, too, that this was going to happen and, in fact, was happening.
Okay, Mr. Stewart and then Supervisor Lesko.
Thank you, Chairman. One of the things that you brought up, Mr. Chair, made me think, we had a number of people that we sent this out to. We actually had one that said, no, thank you. Do you think, and I'm speculating here, but do you think that the possibility of the national scope and the media and all the challenges that have been perceived with Maricopa County prevented some qualified vendors from applying?
Mr. Chairman, no, I can't. For the life of me, it is an open, transparent process that every vendor was available to respond to the solicitation and put forward their best proposal. So no, there's no one. It was a choice of those vendors as to whether they wanted to participate.
Yeah, maybe I should have rephrased it as a statement. I think what I'm saying is that because of everything that's been going on in Maricopa County, right, from the news and et cetera, as a business owner myself, is that something that I'd want to associate my brand with, right? Depending on if it goes well, if it goes bad, we may have people that did not apply simply because they're like, you know what, I'm not getting involved in that. Right. That's
Mr. Chairman, that's certainly logical.
I think Supervisor Stewart makes a great point. Supervisor Lesko.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do have a question that I think the public would be interested in, and I would be interested in, and is what happens if today the majority of the board votes to approve this vendor? What goes public then? Does everyone then, will they all know the bid price? Will they know all the details? What information will I be able to get and the public be able to get because I don't know this information.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'll let Tom add to this. My understanding is it's not actually awarded per the vote. It's officially awarded once the chairman's signature is on the documents after a board, if the board were to support this. And at that point, the confidentiality requirement of the procurement code goes away. The procurement code says that it shall remain confidential until award. So the award would be after these documents were signed, then they would be open to a public records request. There may be proprietary information, or there may be names that would need to be redacted per the statute, but pretty much it would be treated as a public records request.
And Mr. Chair, does that include the scoring as well? Would be public?
Mr. Chairman, Ms. Lesko, yes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments from members of the board? No? Okay, I just have a couple follow-up questions, and then we're going to go to public comment. When companies apply under this process, Mr. Tyne,
yes,
they know full well going in what they're getting themselves into. So if you're sending in a bid, correct, you know that this independent committee is going to be the evaluator and the decider of who is the winning vendor?
Mr. Chairman, it's made clear in the solicitation, spells out everything, including what is going to be evaluated up front and listed in priority. So the solicitation spells out there should be no ambiguity, and there is a open process for vendors, if they do have questions, to submit those questions in the e-procurement system to be answered so that everyone has a fair chance to see those questions and the answers.
Okay, so all 5 bidders know going in what the rules of the game are.
Mr. Chairman, that's correct.
Okay, thank you. And then the other thing I see is that we're at the beginning of the process and we're at the end of the process. We're at the beginning of the process by starting it, opening it up, saying here's the scope of work that we'd like to see, and then we're out. Our hands are off. The process plays itself out through an independent body that selects the vendor, and then we come back at the end of the process and we give the green light to give the go-ahead. We're not deciding whether or not this is the best vendor. We're going by what we were told to by law, but our decision is whether or not to move forward, correct?
Mr. Chairman, it's a recommendation the evaluators have gone through. We facilitated the process and ensured that all of the laws and all of the codes were met. The evaluators then review all of the responses, make a score, and they put forward, and we bring forward a recommendation to the board for an up or down vote.
Got it. Thank you. Very helpful, and I hope this is helpful for the people here in the audience and people watching online. Okay, Madam Clerk, please read out the first 3 names, the first speaker, the second one on deck, and the third one in the hole.
Thank you, Chairman. First one up, Jamie Martin in opposition, Roger Mayeb and Marissa Hamilton in opposition.
Hello, I'm Jamie Martin. On January 8th, 2025, the very day Debbie Lesko was sworn in, she announced her priority to bring in a firm to review Maricopa County elections. That firm is Barry Dunn, McNeil Parker. The problem is, just months before, the same company suffered a massive data breach. Over 1 million people's private information was compromised, including social security numbers and health records. So let's get this straight. A brand new supervisor, and please pay attention to these years we're talking about, 2018 to 2024. So let's get this straight. A new supervisor who admitted she didn't understand the job brings in a private firm with pending litigation and a $7.5 million class action settlement to consult on our elections. The people of Maricopa deserve so much better than this. We're not asking for a witch hunt. We're asking for basic due diligence before this board rubber stamps another contract with a liability attached to it. I have a question for the company and the board. How many corrective action plans have you handled with Six Sigma methodology incorporated?
Does anyone from staff have an answer for that last question? I'm not sure what that was.
How many corrective action plans?
We heard you. I'm just
Okay.
asking staff to answer. And if you don't have an answer, I don't know.
Mr. Chairman, no.
Okay, thank you.
I don't understand. I'm sorry. Tell me what just happened?
Mr. Tyne?
Mr. Chairman, I don't have a number in front of me, no.
Okay, Ms. Martin? Thank you.
Okay, I'm still good, so I can't speak at all.
No, you can speak. You have 15 seconds.
Okay, all right, so I handed you a complete corrective action plan, Ms. Lesko. What's the status? I handed it to you at the last board meeting. Do you have anything to say about that? I'm escalating it. You are aware I'm escalating it.
Thank you, Ms. Martin. Madam Clerk.
Next up, Roger Maya, Marissa Hamilton, followed by Lori Baroni.
Good morning. I'm noticing, Ms. Lesko, you're asking a lot of questions, a lot of in-detail probing, identifying and defining, and what looks to be a investigating and making sure everything is well thought out and concerns are covered. But I notice you don't go into these kind of details when it comes down to looking into how our rights are violated. With the webinar, also with the library,
Sir,
it's taken 2 years.
I'm going to ask you to stay on topic with item number 86, please.
It is on topic. I'm talking about a behavior of the board, which is to be very detailed when they want to be, but they're not detailed when it comes to our rights. Does that make sense?
Do you have comments about this item?
I have a comment about how you are interacting on this topic, and I don't think it's fair.
Okay, thank you.
And it's obvious.
Next up, Marissa Hamilton, Lori Baroni, Ashim Ray.
Members, Chairman, my name is Marissa Hamilton, and I'm representing myself to some of the accusations that were made by the board today. The reason why I know that this proposal is 4 times more than the other amount is because someone from the media told me. And then someone from the grassroots called me and told me the other amounts of the other ones. So that's why I know how much it is. So you might have a leak. Secondly, it is only a choice and a decision you've made to keep the RFP process a secret. And what I mean by that is, as you know, I worked at the City of Phoenix, and the way that they did RFPs is they would release the scoring matrix, they would release the scores, and you can do this by doing it anonymously. You can strip the name from the proposals, you can strip any identifying information from the proposals, you can still release the content of the proposals completely anonymous. You can then release the scoring matrix by identifying Proposal 1, Proposal 2, Proposal 3, Proposal 4. This way, no one knows the companies, everything is kept anonymous, but the public has transparency into the decision-making process and how it happened. In this case, you did release the proposal of the company that you're choosing, and it shows that it doesn't qualify. So I don't know who your selection committee was, but they don't know the laws of Arizona, they don't know the processes in Maricopa County, and they don't have basic understanding of supply chain practices such as chain of custody. And the reason why I know that is because I read Barry Dunn's proposal. They include in their proposal they're going to review DREs. We don't have DREs in Maricopa County. And so there's a number of items here. Since I'm running out of time, I won't go through it. You've obviously read it since your presentation today was made based on my talking points. This company isn't qualified. They've never provided you with a recommendation in the past that worked.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
It never has
Lori
been
Baroni, Ashim Ray, Blue Crawley.
Board, I am here largely to read to you an email that you all received on Saturday from Mary Jane Ziola, and with a few edits of my own. This is regarding voting no. And to Mark Stewart's point, I'm sure that there were a lot of vendors who didn't want to be involved, because who would want to get involved in an election process where election fraud has been allowed to happen and continue while being denied that it's happening? Barry Dunn, why are the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors considering a $400,000 consulting contract to review and advise elections? The county's looking to contract with the Barry Dunn out of Maine. The proposed contract would last for a year with the option to renew for up to 4 additional years. That's 5 years at $400,000. That's $2 million, not $400,000, not $100,000, not $300,000. And so that's a lot of money, and that would be very irresponsible in my opinion. So why are you considering doing that? That's a really good question. These are the reasons why no, you should not. Barry Dunn has examined Maricopa's election procedures in the past. In 2018, they conducted an audit of Adrian Fontez's election day procedures when Fontez was Maricopa County Recorder. There were technical issues setting up polling places that year, which caused many locations to open late. In 21, they reviewed the contract's procurement process for selecting Dominion voting machines and recommended procedures to improve the systems, yet look what happened in 22 elections, where 60% of the Republican voting centers and tabulators and printers issues, where tabulators were rejecting ballots all day long and resulted in long lines and disenfranchised voters. Speaking for Mary Jane Ziola, she knows this because she was a poll worker at Happy Trails Voting Center. By the way, you said that in the contract it doesn't say anything about machines. That's not true. And the hyperlink, item number 24, or page number 24, it does include using of voting machines, and none of us want any of that. Hand counts, one-day voting, hand count ballots only.
Thank you, Ms. Baroni. Madam Clerk.
Ashim Ray, Blue Crawley.
Hello, thank you. My name is Ashim Ray. Thank you for your space and time, people. I'm talking about political favoritism and rush contracting. What does it say to the public when a brand new supervisor's first task at handling a consulting gig is to firm there's a lawsuit for a massive breach? Debbie Lesko pushed for Barry Dunn on day one, but did she disclose their litigation? Did anyone on the board ask about the liability exposure? Or was this deal done behind closed doors because it came from the new hire on her first day? It is not a good look. It reeks a partisan favor or consultation pre-selection, and now this board risks looking complicit on whitewashing an election audit before it even starts. You say you care about public confidence in elections, which this day is horrible since like 2015. This then start showing transparency how you pick consultants and stop pretending you're unaware of the legal battle. Remember, I had a radio show in Arizona from 2016 to 2020 called The Talking One Rocking Radio Show. We spoke the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Everyone that I'm just going to leave it at that. Thank you very much for your time and space, everyone.
Thank you, sir. And before Blue comes up, I'm going to stop right there. You can have a seat, sir.
Oh.
Thank you. I want to talk about Supervisor Lesko, because she has a lot of class and dignity, and she has too much class to descend to these scurrilous attacks and personal attacks. But at no point at all whatsoever did Supervisor Lesko ever put her thumb in the scale and advocate for one company. What she has done is tried to serve the voters in Maricopa County, and she came in and hit the ground running on day one when she got inaugurated and said she'd like to see a comprehensive review of the election procedures. And I saw two people today make personal attacks on her. And you know what, sir? I don't think that comes from you. I think someone else provided that information. I'm going to tell you right now, that information is false, and don't do it again. Thank you. Blue, go ahead.
Thank you for doing that, Tom.
Quiet in the room. Blue Crawley, you're up.
You addressed us.
Yep.
Blue, go ahead, sir. Go for it.
Okay.
Blue, go ahead.
Thank you. I'd like to say that I understand that election deniers, both on the board and in the audience, want things to be for the dictator to go according to his delusions. I appreciate that this is going to be happening, and he's trying to do it independent, because two members are scurrilously being attacked by this just occurring. And the past board members, all people that I felt were individuals with integrity. But then when I'm looking at this whole thing and I see that 4 additional years? Does that mean that you deniers are going to make sure that your delusions are facilitated by continuing to look at it, and find out where there might have been a ballot dropped on the ground and not counted? You know, the insanity of what these people said about the past election and some of the things that happened. Debbie, your previous gentleman, Mr. Hickman, saying that they had taken 60,000 ballots and fed them to the chickens. Chickens are carnivores, they're not vegetarians, and unless they covered it all in blood, that wouldn't have occurred. So when they've impugned him, yourselves, I'm hoping that when this audit is going through, that the truth is coming out and you'll admit that that election was done right by the board. And if it isn't, that you'll admit that it wasn't and take care of it from there. But I understand that you and the others want it to be independent because you don't know. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Public comment is now closed, but I have a question for you, Susan. There's a lot of stuff that goes into putting on elections, and if you try to wrap your arms around it, it's going to be impossible. And so this board made a decision on certain items of the scope of the original RFP, and it came down to 6 items. And I think if it was up to all of us, there'd be many more items on that list. But the other thing is that a comprehensive review of elections cannot take place when we're actually conducting and overseeing elections. We had jurisdictional elections earlier this year. We're right now in the middle of a special election for Congress involving CD7. We're going to have more elections later this fall, and we're going to have obviously more elections next year. So if there's an option to extend it for another year or more, is that because the board might keep under consideration other items that they want to further in scope? Please go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, that short answer is yes. Once we get into the audit and knowing that there are ongoing elections that have to be conducted, we are going to have to, or the vendor that's selected will have to make adjustments, and that may require going into additional years. The intent is not to add additional costs, though, unless there's something that is specifically needed in addition to what was decided on, and that would be a different discussion for a different day.
We have to navigate a balancing act here.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, Mr. Tyne?
Mr. Chairman, just to that point, most of our contracts are for 1 or 2 years to meet the needs and the requirements as spelled out in the solicitation. As Susan said, there may be times where you go past that. Those are renewals that would have to be agreed upon between the vendor and ourselves. They're not automatic. It's not a 5-year contract. It's a 1-year contract with 4 renewals as necessary and determined by the county and the vendor.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Liddy, anything to add?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Any questions from the board for these members of staff? No? Okay. Okay. We'll entertain a motion, but then allow folks to discuss the motion and/or explain their vote. So is there a motion for item number 86?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve item number 86.
Supervisor Lesko, thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Supervisor Gardo, thank you. Okay. I'm going to go to you, Steve, first, and then I'm going to go to Supervisor Stewart for any comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Once again, I just want to thank the staff within our procurement office for the work that they have done to get us to this point. Been elected official on multiple boards. We all know the importance of the procurement process. We're all familiar with the laws. We know it is truly an independent process. As I think Tom Liddy mentioned, it's an arm's length. We're just not involved. That's just law. We all know that. So I do want to thank them for the work they do. I do look forward to this type of review. This is something that is necessary. I think it's always good to be able to take a step back and be able to have these type of comprehensive reviews right after the 2020 election. And I think our phones and our emails, I was here, were just off the chart, just wanting audits and reviews and so on. And so I appreciate these types of reviews. I look forward to to what comes out. Look forward to the report. But Mr. Chairman, on a personal note, I do want to echo your comments in regards to Supervisor Lesko. I had the honors of working with her in the legislature and mostly here on the board real closely. We both represent the West Valley, and we share many of the municipalities, and I couldn't agree more that she has just come here with just integrity and has just worked real hard. She has represented the West Valley for a long time in the legislature and a member of Congress. She has just been a true leader in the West Valley, and she brings her leadership and experience here. So I apologize for the comments that you have to hear. We hear it all the time. A lot of it is just BS. It's just nonsense. But unfortunately, it happens in a case. But you are definitely not deserving of those types of comments.
Supervisor Stewart.
Thank you, and thank you, Chair. I want to begin by thanking our staff. I mean, Kevin and Susan, I appreciate the in-depth explanation you've given of everything, and the team that works for you during our executive sessions, the process on how it goes on. I also want to comment that I appreciate Debbie bringing this forward, as she did basically the first day, to be able to look for the blind spots in our processes and use an independent agency to do that. So you've done a tremendous job with those policies, even with the laws that kind of govern procurement, what we can see, what we can be involved with, right? Because at the end of the day, people are going to look to us, right? We're their advocate to this county to advocate for their wishes. And I think at the end of the day, you guys have continued to make transparency more prevalent, even with the challenges that are over us because of statute. At the same time, I believe that law and policy, while they are very necessary, can sometimes get in the way of real reform, right? And or they can slow it down. In this case, I believe we're missing an opportunity to bring full visibility to the vendor selection process and invite a fresh perspective into something as important as election operations. Barry Dunn is a capable and experienced firm. They've supported Maricopa County in 2018 and again in 2021. But even when past recommendations have been solid, I believe it's reasonable and frankly wise to hesitate before asking any vendor to audit the impact of their own work. Independence matters, especially when public trust is on the line. So, there are other nationally respected firms, as we understand today, which is great information that you gave me today. We really didn't have a lot of people that applied to take this on. But they have deep and specific experience in election law, security, and operations. So firms like Verified Voting and others, these organizations have been involved in best-in-class reforming across the country and other counties, and I believe reaching out to them would bring a tremendous value to this process. Their perspective could help us ensure that our audit is not only sound, but also rooted in both election law, Arizona election law, and national standards. So this audit should not be about internal process. It should be about leadership. And since we have the opportunity to produce recommendations that do more than help us function better, we can provide actionable insights to the Arizona legislature and strengthen election law, build confidence, and serve all Arizonans. That's kind of why I brought that up, and what we can do. So thank you for the clarification on what we can give back to the legislature to tighten things up even better. Everyone up here is committed to doing that, and we'll continue to work through this process. We're not rushed. We do have time. I know we have an election coming up. But the big one, which is the gubernatorial, and then in 2028, the presidential, I want to use this moment to get it right. So Maricopa County can become an envy of the nation because we are focused on this. We do have public input. We do have incredible staff. We have 5 board members up here that are committed to making this work. But we need to make sure that it's a goal we're striving for, right? And so today, with full respect and for the work that has gone into this proposal, I'll be voting no, but it's not to delay the process, right? It's to elevate it. We can do more, I think. And the big picture here is we have some blind spots, right? Every company does. And using an audit to evaluate those hopefully will provide more trust and transparency to the public. At this point, using a firm that directly or indirectly would be auditing their own audit, for me, I have trouble with this, so I'll be voting no on this, Chairman. Thank you.
Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Supervisor Lesko. for bringing this forward. I enthusiastically embraced this audit for so many reasons. I've been listening to public comment, and it strikes a similar theme as has occurred since I have come onto the board. And I thought it might be instructive to start with some comments about what the board is and isn't. The board is not a monolith. It consists of 5 electeds, 4 Republicans, 1 Democrat, and by the way, we changed 3 positions over in this last election. So you've got new faces, fresh faces, coming together in January, learning how to work together. And thinking back over the past 27 years, serving on so many boards, so many commissions, in the Arizona legislature, on the Arizona School Facilities Board, and with many Republican grassroots groups, because that's my affiliation, I will tell you this: boards and commissions cannot agree on what time of day it is or what color the sky is, mostly. They can't get there. And that is the purpose of a board with 5 members in this case. It's harder with 30 or 60. A board is not capable in this highly transparent environment or ever of moving in concert with the intent of deception and deceit of the public on its face. That is simply ludicrous. Yet this is what the public is being asked to believe via social media, informed opinions, as opposed to a single elected official speaking for themselves and for their office. By the way, what a board can do is meet in a properly noticed meeting, in executive session for legal advice, in a public forum for discussion, debate, and vote. Ideally, each member votes in the best interests of the county and his district based on the research and the due diligence that they have done, and doesn't waffle or cave to loud, obstreperous, ill-informed or uninformed public opinion, but rather takes into account real facts, real information that is made available as part of a process like this. And I will tell you, I have been holding government accountable for 26 plus years. I would be voting no if I did not get every question answered, if I did not get if everything didn't line up. The best interests in this particular vote are defined as, but not limited to, properly conducted, open, transparent elections where the will of voters, whether or not the elected likes the outcome, results. And as a veteran of some really close elections, as I always say, 2016, 2018, 2020, and yes, 2024, I can speak to this personally. I didn't like all the outcomes, but I believed in them. Processes can always be improved. And one of the things I look for within our staff and within government, are you open to an audit? If I hear anything that even comes close to, we don't think we need it. No, it has been welcomed. And part of the reason it has been welcomed is because the elections process, including the recorder function, in Maricopa County has been under a bright, bright nationwide spotlight since 2020. It really should have backed up, in my mind, to 2018. But it really started in 2020. And that's a good thing, depending on what we 5 elected officials with 5 different opinions and 5 different approaches and very different experiences that we bring to bear in our work on this board, depending on what we decide. Another purpose is to ensure fiscal prudence. Boy, did I learn this on the school facilities board. Cheapest ain't the best. Depending on, you sometimes have to go to a broader scope so you can get the expertise that you need to build, in this case, school buildings, auditoriums, specialized facilities. I cannot express enough my appreciation for my ability to access, within the limits of the law, this process, for me to understand how it was built, and for me to then go forward in complete and total support of this. I will not cave. I will not waffle to ill-informed or uninformed public opinion. I value public opinion. It is important to me. But I also know that as an elected official, I am elected to represent the interests of my voters and the voters of Maricopa County. That is what I have come here to do. That is what I am going to do in my yes vote on this item.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Supervisor Lesko. Excuse me. Maintain order, please. Supervisor Lesko.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've been involved in the Republican Party grassroots for many, many years. I think like 30 years. I am still a precinct committeeman, Republican precinct committeeman. I have walked my neighborhood. I used to be the Maricopa County voter registration chairwoman. And so on July 4th, out in the heat, I would set up pop-up tents at the July 4th facilities and register Republican voters. I have been the chairwoman of my legislative district Republican Party. Then, as you know, I served in the state legislature and then in the U.S. House of Representatives, where in the U.S. House of Representatives, I fought very strongly against some of my Democratic colleagues' legislation that I believe would have hurt election integrity, such as sending ballots to everyone, whether they asked for the ballots or not. That was a Democratic policy push that I fought against and we defeated. During, since I would say 2020 election, there were a lot of really good people that I have known for many, many years that were concerned about the election procedures. They were concerned that the election may have been stolen. They were concerned about what was happening in Maricopa County and throughout the nation. I was given lots of videos, lots of people contacting me, texting me, and I started, trying to dig into all of these different things, but I found that I just couldn't do it as one person, know what is true and what is not true. I found on some of these things that somebody sent me a video, and I asked, one of the elections people, okay, what is this about? And I would do this over and over again. What is this about? What is this about? Is this true? Is this not true? And one of the videos I found, it was explainable. It was very explainable. So once it was explained to me, I understood. So one of the reasons that I ran to be a Maricopa County Supervisor after I decided to leave Congress was, whether some of you believe it or not, I really, really believe in election integrity. I have fought for it at the state legislature. I have fought for it at the congressional level, and I will fight for it now. And so that is why, even before I was sworn in, I met with Tom, our chairman, and I said, this is very important to me. I really want to get to the bottom of this. And I want to have an comprehensive election procedure audit of Maricopa County to see what we are doing right and if there's anything that we are doing wrong. And it needs to be done by a reputable, independent firm. And contrary to what I've heard today from a couple people, I did not ask for any specific company. For goodness sakes, I didn't even know these companies. I had no idea who Barry Dunn was, never even heard of them before. But I am thankful to the staff for explaining to us the procurement process. I am thankful to the staff for helping me to come to this point. And I am thankful to the majority of the board for agreeing with me on this issue. And I'm looking forward to seeing the results, if this is approved, to seeing the results from this audit so that we can ensure election integrity. And with that, I yield back.
Thank you, Supervisor Lesko. Thank you, everyone, for your comments and work on this. And first of all, I want to thank staff, Tom, Kevin, Susan, thank you so much. First of all, today, I think we took a crash course in Procurement 101. And so for many folks, I think they learned a lot today. I learned quite a bit. Also, thank you for your work on this, because we have been working on this and you've been working on this since January 1. I've been now on the county board for several years, and I've lived through several election cycles, probably the most tumultuous of our times in county history. And I think one thing I have is a reputation as a conservative Republican. No one can call me an election denier. I have always accepted the results of every single election. And so when I announced in my chairman's speech in January that I believe that we should do this, I know that reporters said to me, hey, what are you going to do? You're going to audit election results? I thought you're not an election denier. What's wrong? You've always defended elections. Exactly. If you got nothing to hide, you got nothing to hide. And also, you could always do better. If you're ever complacent, that's the slippery slope to doing a bad job and not serving the voters. And for me as a county supervisor, what I've always told people is that I'm going to tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. And so today's vote is about leadership. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to vote for this, and this is going to be the proudest vote that I have taken since I've joined the county board. Exactly because I joined the Republican Party. My first campaign I worked on when I was 17 years old. Growing up in New York, I volunteered for Rudy Giuliani. I was just a skinny kid standing on the corner.
Mr.
Yes,
Chairman,
ma'am.
point of order.
Yeah.
There are decorum rules. Please keep your snarks and your comments to yourself.
Likewise. Likewise.
Okay. Anyway, 17 years old, conservative Republican in New York City, tried going through that. Handing out leaflets for Rudy Giuliani, I would literally get spit on by folks. But I maintained my values, maintained my character, and maintained my dignity. And I've kept that up every single day here when it comes to elections. And so in this process, the word independent is vital. Absolutely vital, because that is the heart of procurement law. I am not going to advocate for any one specific company to be picked or to volunteer or to apply. I'm going to let the process play out. But what we heard today was that this was an independent process for procurement, and we're deciding whether or not to go forward. And I think we have to go forward today. Because if you are upset with how elections are conducted, we have a process in the rule of law. Go to court, challenge the results, show the judge how the election law was not followed. But if the court rules against you, accept the results and move on. You know what? Sometimes the judge might have it wrong, but life isn't fair. It's not fair. A lot of campaigns I worked on as a volunteer or staff where I really wanted that candidate to win. They didn't win. And now I've run for office as a candidate, and every single time I wrote my name in a statement of interest, it was knowing full well that I was going to accept the results of the election, win or lose. That's how it works in our constitutional republic. And that's what we're going to keep doing. But in 2022, I believe that Maricopa County fell short in that election when we had the issue with the tabulators and the printers. And for me, that was a searing experience. It was an awful experience, because I think collectively, and buck stops here, we let down people. We understand how elections work. It went to court. It was resolved in the courts. But I knew that then, at that moment, that we should do everything we can to make our process and our side of the house better. So we can do all we want in terms of talking about policy, about asking state lawmakers to change the law, about asking a governor to sign this, this, or that, but what are we going to do about it? And so I hope that this process becomes a regular process, not just a one-off process, because if we're able to look inward, we can do this every 8 years. We can do this every 12 years to make sure that we're in tip-top shape of delivering world-class elections to the voters that we're serving. We're the 4th largest county in the country. We're probably at this moment the most important voting jurisdiction in America, which means the eyes of the world are upon us. And I look forward to this process, and I look forward to seeing the recommendations that come out of this organization that is going to be helping us. And I look forward to this board working together, not just with this comprehensive review, but continuously over the next 4 years to make sure that we're delivering awesome elections for voters. And once again, this is the proudest vote I'm making as a county supervisor. I'm very happy we're doing this, and I'm going to vote aye. Thank you. Okay, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
No.
No. By a vote of 4 to 1, this motion is approved. Thank you. All right, moving on to the next item. 87, donation of retiring canine Trino. Is there a motion for
Chairman?
87? Yes, Madam Vice Chair.
I move the approval of the donation of retiring K9 Trino and wish him well, her well.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Supervisor Stewart. All in favor of number 87, say
There's a roll
aye.
call vote.
Chairman, this
Roll call
requires
vote,
unanimous
that's
roll
right.
call.
I always forget. Roll call, please.
Thank you. Supervisor Stewart, Supervisor Brophy McGee,
Aye.
Supervisor Lesko.
Aye.
Supervisor Gallardo.
Aye.
Chairman Galvin.
Aye. By a vote of 5 to 0, the motion has passed. Moving on, under Finance, 88, lease documents for financing the county equipment and declaration of official intent. 89 and 90, resolution for declaration of official intent to reimburse. Is there a motion for this item?
Excuse me,
And we have
Chairman.
speaker slips.
I do have one speaker form from Loemar Garza. It looks like she marked here to speak on item number 89.
Okay, Ms. Garza, please come up.
Let me address then individuals, the names I've got here. Toby Flenderson, Phyllis or Meredith, Oscar Martinez, Angela Martin, and Michael Scott. Under that criteria, I would like to know with item 89, which ties into 90, regarding a reimbursement for purposes. You've got more bonds that you're putting out there, and that's the amount of 10 million plus, plus, plus. You've got 90, ties in 247 million to 67 more bonds, and that ties into 83, which you put in the consent agenda that we could not comment on between, I believe it was 14 or 14 and 85, which, by the way, includes handles 85% of this agenda is off limits for us to talk about. And the remaining ones are useless to talk about. They have no point, and I'm wondering at what point are you going to make it 99% that we can't talk about anything when you put it under the consent agenda, and you make these decisions issuing bonds, and I believe on 23, the bond was something like 40-something million. But so I'm kind of wondering, and I'll ask you this question. No, that was 811,000 on number 23 for funding. Let me see if that's 24, 23. No, let me back up. Donation to the Constables Association with grant funds for 23. So many bonds, you've got a $4 billion budget that's coming up actually, which you also put in the consent agenda, so we could not comment on. I'm wondering at what point are we allowed to understand where $4 billion is going? And with the raises that you all put on these, I believe for the sheriffs and et cetera, to retain people, you're looking at millions and millions of dollars. And it's not being justified with the crimes that are being committed.
Thank you.
Belligerent occupants.
Any other speakers, Madam Clerk?
Chairman, no other speakers.
Okay, Madam Vice Chair.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of items 88 through 90 as presented.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Supervisor Stewart. All in favor of items 88 through 90, say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? None. Motion carries unanimously. 91, County Attorney, initiate litigation regarding environmental code violations. 92, initiate litigation regarding zoning code violations. 93, conflict waiver for Fenimore Craig PC. 94, settlement in Maricopa County versus Mominy. 95, competition in practicable procurement for Statecraft PLLC. Madam Clerk, any speaker slips for items 91 through 95?
Chairman, no speakers for these items.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Madam Vice Chair.
I move approval of items 91 through 95 as presented in the agenda.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Supervisor Stewart. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, we'll recess as the Board of Supervisors and reconvene under the Flood Control District. 96, declare sell excess parcel. 97, land disposal services with the City of Glendale. 98 and 99, IGAs with the Town of Gila Bend. 100 minutes, 101, easement right-of-way, and relocation assistant documents. Madam Clerk, any speaker slips for items 96 through 101?
Chairman, we received 3 speaker forms. All 3 wish to speak on item number 100 minutes.
Okay, please call out all 3 names.
Lori Baroni, Leslie Shepard, and Cheryl Lagalbo.
So I'm commenting today on agenda item number 100 because it's an agenda item, and frankly, it's the only minutes items we're allowed to speak on. The rest of the minutes from the departments like Library District are out there, but we can't, and we can read them, but you've intentionally shielded them from commenting by placing them in consent agenda. This isn't accidental, it's how you're silencing discussion while pretending to allow access. For example, during the February 26th meeting cycle, Chairman Galvin shut down public participation, including a speaker named Don Hyatt, without that being even captured on the official record. That is relevant. That is part of what we are not allowed to comment on anywhere else. So here we are commenting on one tiny sliver of your record because it's the only piece not hidden behind consent. That's not compliance with the open meeting law. It's a loophole strategy as we see it. And according to what you had said, Chairman Galvin, on February 26th, that your plan for Maricopa County believes government should be accountable and transparent. Well, guess what? When you're putting everything in consent agendas, up to from 60 to 85% of agenda items, that's not transparent, and that is not being held accountable. And shame on you for being a dictator.
Thank you, Ms. Baroni. Madam Clerk.
Leslie Shepard, followed by Cheryl Lagalbo.
I mean, definitely I noticed the same thing, that the stadium district's the only minutes you allowed to stay within our grasp to talk about. I mention that because, you know, there's a hostile environment that's actually a law that you guys in decorum can't break, and lack of decorum. That means when you respond to us after we make a comment, you're violating decorum. I just thought I'd educate you on that, because what I saw was many times in which you guys broke decorum in here. As soon as you start putting down the public and you start going after us for our comments, you're a violation of decorum. Matter of fact, you're more than violation of decorum. You're in violation of a law.
Do you have anything about the flood control minutes?
Yeah, I want to talk to you about the color of law, what you're doing right now to me. You're sitting here intimidating me that I need to talk about something that you finally have left available for us. You put most of the agenda underneath your consent agenda that you created, and I'm going to say the right name this time, Thomas Galvin. You've created this environment. So the stadium district, I'd like to know, did you actually include all the notes that you did? When I looked at it, I know those notes aren't up to date, because I noticed that you didn't have them up to date during the library district that you passed within the consent agenda when you sat there and did what you did. So I'm just wanting to put it on record that you,
Vice Chair.
that you are breaking the law.
We are in flood control district.
Did you?
Please, I request that the speaker maintain their comments to item number 100 minutes.
Laws that you're stating, not one of you responded. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Cheryl Lagalbo.
Hi, I'm Cheryl Legalbo. I'm representing myself. Speaking on Agenda Item 100, the approval of the minutes from the Flood Control District meeting on February 26, 2025, under ARS 38-431.01 and 11-218. These statutes exist to ensure accurate and transparent documentation of public meetings. So let's talk about the bigger pattern. This is one of the only sets of minutes on today's agenda that the public is allowed to comment on. The minutes from other departments, like the library district, are visible to the public, but conveniently buried inside the consent agenda, where public comment is not allowed. We can read them, but we can't respond. That's not transparency, that's control. On February 26, 2025, during this same meeting cycle, a disabled constituent, Don Hyatt, was denied the right to speak, and that isn't reflected in any record. And we're not even allowed to say that in public comment, except right here. If this board wants to approve minutes, start with approving the public's right to speak when those minutes are incomplete or misleading. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Madam Vice Chair.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of items 96 through 101 for the Flood Control District.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Supervisor Stewart. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? None. Motion carries unanimously. We will adjourn as the Flood Control District Board of Directors and convene as the Stadium District Board of Directors. The board will now consider item 102 and 103. 102 is appointment to the Arizona Diamondbacks Foundation Board of Directors. 103 is appropriation adjustment for the Stadium District. Madam Clerk, any speakers for these items?
Chairman, no speakers.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Madam Vice Chair.
I would like to move items 102 and 103 for approval with the additional note of thanks to Don Wallace, a longtime professional colleague at the Arizona Legislature, and even before on issues related to education and the multitude of work she did on behalf of Governor Ducey. She will be a wonderful addition to this foundation.
I concur. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Supervisor Stewart. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We will now adjourn as the Stadium District Board of Directors and reconvene as the Board of Supervisors. We're going to go to item number 104, public comment first, and then we're going to go to item 105, Supervisor Summary of Current Events. Madam Clerk, how many speakers for item number 104, public comment?
Chairman, we received 22.
Okay, thank you. Please read off the first 3 names and then 3 names subsequently.
Diane Barker, Don Adams, followed by Lisa Everett.
So I asked you questions, you asked me questions. Idea for a song started brewing then. And since I saw...
Hello, I'm Diane Barker. Come on down, the price is right. And Johnny Cash says, I wear black till the world gets a little better. I want to ask my supervisor. I'm in District 5. I've been coming here for some years. I did have my birthday, Thomas Galvin, as you did, in June. But you know what? Before I left to celebrate it, I asked about the ADA. ADA, why the doors don't work out here. And one of the guards said that he would inquire, I guess with maintenance. So then it didn't happen the next meeting. And so another guard said, I'm going to put in for that. And I just heard today, they said, well, you know, maintenance is pretty busy, and it may be. They says, there are other doors. This can't happen. And I know that your rhetoric a lot, Gallardo, is to help marginalized and fight for people that may not be able to fight for themselves. I thought that's really what a lot of our life was about. Unfortunately, the doors, I believe it's against ADA. So now, Jen, Tom, and the whole board, who do I talk to? And I'd like to have you talk to immediately we can get these fixed, these doors.
Thank you. I think Supervisor.
You have the answer, my supervisor?
Supervisor Goddard, do you want your office to follow up, or do you want to ask the county manager to follow up?
Yeah, Jen can follow.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Parker.
And so you will do that.
Next up, Don Adams, Lisa Everett, Nina Farrell. Don Adams. Next up, Lisa Everett.
Who's after Ms. Farrell?
I'm sorry, Chairman. Terry Johnson.
Good morning, almost. It's almost afternoon. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak today, Chairman Galvin and Supervisors. I wanted to thank Supervisor Lesko for coming out to Whitman to view the property that BNSF is looking at building the intermodal hub on. I want to still extend the invitation to everyone, but it is in Supervisor Lesko's district, so I wanted to say thank you for coming out there. It meant a lot to the citizens. I've received a lot of calls of thank you and pass that on, so I'm doing my job here. Also, speaking of BNSF, I want to tell you a little short story I heard. BNSF has a rail yard in Glendale, and there was a water main break at this yard, and the water, of course, was just pouring out thousands of gallons where it was interfering with the neighborhood. And so the neighborhood, of course, called the city, and the city, of course, went out to respond, and BNSF said, no, I cannot let you come in here and fix this, but we're here, we'll help you. We'll get this done for you. No. BNSF wanted to wait until what I'm assuming were union workers, but until their workers finally arrived on the scene to remedy the problem. This was quite some time later. Many people's lives were interrupted because of this. The reason I'm telling you this story is BNSF is not a good neighbor in Glendale, and they will not be a good neighbor in Whitman. And so when the vote comes, I hope you remember these short stories that I tell you. Thank you, and I appreciate all of your hard work.
Thank you, Ms. Everett. Madam Clerk.
Nina Farrell, Terry Johnson, and Tyler Rohr.
Hello, this is Terry Johnson. Nina wants to go second. Mr. Chairman and the board, I'm here to ask your help. I met Chairman Galvin in June of '22 at a breakfast, and we talked about crime in our neighborhood, and he said he was going to take care of that, and so did some other people that were there. Since that time, we've had over 1,000 crimes at my property, and the packets that I brought there are for each of the supervisors, and you can keep those, and those have information of how of the crimes and the dates and the IR numbers, and you can review those and get back to me at your convenience to discuss. There's also a section in there with McDOT regulations on page 1 about driveways. I put in a driveway and I permitted it, and it's my private property in the right-of-way, and I'm responsible for it. MCSO says that it is in the right-of-way and it's public property, so they're contradicting the law. And we need your help with this to get MCSO compliant with the law. They're letting little kids ride illegal dirt bikes down the side of the road in the right-of-way, and if one of those kids gets killed, we're going to have a big issue here, probably. So it's something you want to take care of. And then we've had people come to our house and shoot our windows out of our house, burn them off on our driveway, throw garbage on our property, throw glass jars of oil on our driveway. And all of this is recent after you said that you're working with the state to fight for law and order in our community. And this is happening now.
Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk.
Nina Farrell, Tyler Rohr, Jamie Martin.
I'm short. Thank you.
I just want to reiterate what he had just finished saying. I can't believe that somebody that's law-abiding has all of these issues, as you can see the photos, happening to his property, and nobody's paying attention to his complaints. This is going on for many years, and I can't imagine who is monitoring MCSO. Who tells them what's right and what's wrong? If they're telling him we have no case, who does he go to? I'm just a friend trying to say something has to be done for someone that really needs help. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk.
Tyler Rohr, Jamie Martin, Terrain Chin.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board, and staff. My name is Tyler Rohr, resident here in Maricopa County, and I proudly serve as a firefighter for the Rio Verde Fire District. On behalf of my coworkers and the citizens that we serve, I want to express our sincere gratitude to the Board of Supervisors for your ongoing commitment to public safety and support of fire districts throughout Maricopa County. Similar to the fire service, your leadership and diligence makes a tangible difference in the lives of so many. Specifically, we want to thank you for the funding decisions resulting from the Kazimierz case, which would have been crucial for our community. Without it, fire districts face a real possibility of staffing reductions, service interruptions, or what we in the fire service call browning out units. All of these outcomes would have compromised the safety and well-being of our residents, tourists, and other citizens of Maricopa County. As firefighters, we understand and embrace our mission to the community. We do that by providing life safety through fire suppression, fire prevention, emergency medical services and transport, hazardous materials mitigation, technical rescue, and community education. We do it all with a commitment to exceptional customer service 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Your support enables us to deliver on that promise. Thank you for the continued support of fire districts. By standing behind the men and women of the fire service, we can continue to serve and protect our community with excellence. We look forward to a continuing positive working relationship with you and to continue to protect the citizens of Maricopa County. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, and thank you for your service, and please thank your firefighter brothers and sisters for their service, and please keep safe this summer. Madam Clerk.
Jamie Martin, Terrain Chin, Roger Mayab.
Good morning. I'm Jamie Martin, and for 4 years I've raised the alarm about serious contract oversight failures, specifically third-party vendors in our elections, but this impacts every single contract that the state oversees, not just our elections. Last month, I submitted a personal records request 139, and this week it escalated to the Recorder's Office, Procurement, Information Governance, and this board. I'm not just asking for transparency, I am demanding accountability. I have been trying for the past 4 years to get Resolution 3 approved. It was approved in theory by the MCRC ECG committee. Now it needs to be approved in writing. It's a free 90-day complete corrective action plan that involves the legislator, where I'm asking the legislator to do the job that I used to do. So I worked at American Express. I was the person that had to escalate to the leaders to get them to open the corrective action plan. That's why I'm asking about corrective action plans. I've handed Mark Stewart and Debbie this complete packet. It's now in your guys' hands with PRR 139 for the BOS and information governance and PRR 2564 for the Recorder's Office. I know what happens if this solution is ignored, and I can't let that happen in Arizona. I love my God, I love my country, and I love my freedom, and I need you to put this on the next BOS agenda so we can have a conversation with all the parties involved. I'm asking you if we can do that.
Thank you, ma'am. Madam Clerk.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Tirani Chin, Roger Mayup.
I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
Hey, Mr. Crawley, please. Next speaker.
Good morning, Chairman Galvin and members of the board. My name is Tirani Chin, and I am here on behalf of All Voting is Local Action. Maricopa County voters deserve stability and certainty when heading into elections. The recent breakdown in the shared services agreement between the Recorder's Office and the board is deeply concerning, especially with the CD7 special election just weeks away. Shared services agreements have long existed to ensure our elections are administered fairly and efficiently. The decision by Recorder Heap to revoke the agreement without a new functional plan in place creates confusions and threatens to undermine trust in the very process voters rely on. While transitions in leadership can bring new approaches, this ongoing public standoff is not serving the people of Maricopa County. It is distracting from the real work, making sure every eligible voter can cast a ballot easily, securely, and without unnecessary obstacles. Arizona voters are united behind one simple, nonpartisan goal: ensuring every eligible voter can cast their ballot easily, securely, and without obstruction. This disagreement among officials pulls focus from this critical mission. This isn't about politics, it is about protecting our democracy and ensuring smooth, accessible elections for all, and we expect election officials to act accordingly. Thank you for your work.
Thank you, ma'am. Madam Clerk.
Roger Mayup, Luke Portal, Kim Miller.
My name is Roger Mabe, and as I've told this board before, I live in Wickenburg. I drive an hour and a half each way, 3 hours round trip, just to have a chance to speak for 2 minutes. But even then, it's not guaranteed. In December and February, I was denied the right to speak, despite following all the procedures, and still, this board refused to provide the webinar access, even though most of Arizona and the counties, they presently provide a webinar. The only other county that doesn't is on tribal land. Maricopa County represents 63% of the state. You have the resources. Some of you even use the webinar yourself, yet you deny it to us. Why? This isn't just an inconvenience, it's unlawful. Specifically, ADA Title II, denying equal access. First Amendment, blocking my right to petition the government, and the Arizona Open Meeting Laws, ARS Section 38, failing to provide meaningful public access. I've raised this more than once. I follow the rules, I show up, and I'm silenced. If this board can't take the laws seriously when it comes to public access, it's no wonder you don't take seriously felonies against children. In closing, you've obviously scheduled these meetings to make it convenient for you and your schedule, not for the working class. The least you can do is simply activate the webinar for the working class so they can use that. They're the ones that elected you. So the seconds I have left, Tom, why don't you tell me what you are going to restrict my speech in? Tell me what you're going to restrict my speech.
Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk.
That's what I thought.
Luke Portal, Kim Miller, Marissa Hamilton.
It's been a couple weeks. Welcome back to the circus, guys. It's always a good day. So you're already violating ARS 38-431-01. I don't know about you guys, but under this law, all meetings must be applied consistently and fairly. Now, by show of hands, since, these guys, who cares? Do you guys think this meeting's been held fairly at all? Thank you. All right, so now that we got that out of the way, Thomas Galvin is also co-conspiring with one of the biggest liberal news journalists in our state in gaslighting Justin Heap. And this was from a tweet on the 20th from Jen Fiffield saying, as Maricopa County Recorder Justin Heap fights with the county supervisors for more money and power over the county's elections, state lawmakers approved a budget earlier this morning that would give his office millions. Interesting enough that the last group of clowns that we had, good old Chicken Boy and good old Jack Sell, all those, you were one of them, Thomas. Haven't you guys on time and time again approved and voted on consent agenda items that actually put a handcuff on the recorder can't even do his job. So how are you going to run around on Twitter being a little keyboard warrior and put a handcuff on Justin Heap? He can't even do his job anyway because of the consent agenda items that the previous clowns approved, many of them, that put a handcuff on the recorder anyway. I don't expect Debbie Lesko to understand this because she's a DC bureaucrat that was installed anyway. Could have had Bob Branch, but we screwed that up. Thanks, Turning Point. But again, you're not going to answer the question, why are you co-conspiring with one of the biggest liberal news journalists in our state? And then, of course, you're also co-conspiring with the LD29 chair. That's a topic for another day. But anyway, thank you. I know you're not going to answer my questions anyway.
Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk.
Kim Miller, Marissa Hamilton, Blue Crawley.
Good afternoon. I don't know if you can hear me. Good afternoon, supervisors. I want to address the library issue. I'm Kim Miller. I'm founder and president of Arizona Women of Action. And I want to thank the supervisors for caring about this issue and for listening to citizens. I know we have met with some of you and have been welcomed to discuss this issue. And we do believe that you realize that there are books in children's sections and teen sections that do not belong there at all. I believe that the board knows that there's a problem and that you have already decided to do something with this pilot program. I think it's a good start, but it is very limited. It doesn't go far enough, and it makes it difficult for parents to have to go into the libraries and specifically name different books on that. I liked the idea of parents opting in or opting out, opting out of books and being able to say, I don't want any of these books for my children to see. I like the idea of having the system where you'll start to move books to an appropriate parent section. And we'd also like to have a rating system of some kind at some point for you to consider so that parents know that there are certain, just like movie theaters, where there's a rating system that protects kids, and parents at least know that there is a given level of protection. We also, Arizona Women of Action, care about free speech. We understand that. But free speech should never sacrifice children or the parents' rights to protect their kids. So we also understand that there's a legal process to go through. There has to be a rational process so that everyone's rights are protected. But the problem is activists have been manipulating the people, and most citizens have no idea what is in the libraries. So we came up with a petition for citizens to sign. We've been able to get 352 signatures, just letting parents know that these books are in the libraries. So I would like to give this to you. I don't know who to hand this to. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Marissa Hamilton, Blue Crawley, Leslie Shepard.
Chairman, supervisors, just to correct some of the misinformation that we heard earlier today. Number one, I used to work at the City of Phoenix for Councilman Sal DeCiccio. It is, and I'm very active at the legislature and other levels of government. It is well known that in general, most public meetings, everyone knows within the board or the city council or at the legislature how everyone is going to vote before they get to the meeting. So it's not like it's a surprise. And we know that it wasn't a surprise for you on the comprehensive review because you pulled it last time it was on the agenda because you didn't want certain information to get out. Congressman Lesko, if you were serious about election integrity while in Congress after having been in charge of voter registration, you would have gotten HAVA and the NVRA amended so it doesn't keep prohibiting integrity and citizen-only voting. So I disagree with your assertions on that, although I did support you and I I campaigned for you. So that's why I'm so disappointed in what's been happening since you've been elected. Why this comprehensive election review will fail. I think it was the 2018 audit that Barry Dunn provided. It was useless, with only recommendations being that staff should have a checklist to solve the issues. They didn't include what should be on the checklist. Staff had to conduct their own internal study afterwards to identify the root causes to resolve them. I have no expectation this is going to be any different. Chairman Galvin, you said that you were going to make sure that we had a good vendor this time and not do another Cyber Ninjas. Well, we have a worse vendor because the setup for this review doesn't actually include reviewing any documents or anything comprehensive. And so it really just, or any of the voter complaints, the chain of custody documents. So it dodges the root causes that have plagued the county previously. It is riddled with embarrassing errors, and it shows this vendor is not qualified for this
Crawley,
project.
Leslie Shepard, Cheryl Legalbo.
Good morning, Board. Your positions on MAG are one of the things I'm going to cover here. Can we start the time then? As I said, your positions at MAG, you on transportation, you on overall and such, because, you know, you say elections have consequences in that, and the funding for RPTA and that didn't even pass, but you guys did push it through. And I'm still looking at what in the past has been done and what's going to be done in the future. You know, when $60 million of planning goes to the light rail, where are all the bus stops? You know, there's 1,300 that didn't get done over that same period of time, where you have on Camelback Road a bus every, half hour? At the same time, you've got 7 light rails going that same distance, but it's only from Central Avenue to 19th. Where are the 7 buses that should have been on that roadway at the same time? The monies that RPTA has been spending, where's the bus? Where is the advocate for the bus? We need to bifurcate those agencies and get that woman out of there and let her do whatever she wants over there at rail. But as a stepchild, et cetera, what I put together and you people then changed a bit, you know, when I look at how Mesa took and gutted the program, and then from 08 onward saying that, well, we have to be within monetary constraints, so we're going to only give this much to the bus at the same time giving how much to the...
Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Leslie Shepard, Cheryl Legalbo, Ashim Ray.
Okay. Mr. Liddy, you're not supposed to be here protecting the board. You're rather supposed to be upholding the law. On May 7, 2025, Lois Parter tried to yield her time to Leslie Shepard, who had been denied webinar access. You blocked it by yielding time as part of the First Amendment right, and you helped violate it. You said that a speaker slip had to be turned in for the speaker. You went on record. This is what I tried to play for Kate Brophy-McGee when she wanted to gaslight me and say that there's a policy that doesn't exist. Then on May 21st, the same speaker returned with the valid speaker slip submitted on time and was still denied. You said nothing as you sat there. Meanwhile, earlier in the meeting, Guy Carpenter, an attorney, who was allowed to come up here with no speaker slip and was given 5 minutes by Thomas Galvin. You watched it happen, all under your watch. You're supposed to be looking out for the law, Liddy, and instead you're protecting the board instead of looking out for the law. So which rule matters, Tom Liddy? The rules that you determine or they determine that they can pump up and say that don't exist, or the real laws? The ones that you enforce are the ones you ignore. You cannot continue stepping in and saying that we're allowed to speak on something or not allowed to speak on it. And you, Ms. McGee, you flat out, you denied me my First Amendment right. You broke the color of law. You used your position. You sat there, as you said in your tweet, just because it's on Twitter doesn't mean it's true. Well, just because you keep repeating it's a rule or it's a policy or a law because Thomas Galvin is lawless, doesn't make you right. And you know what Silly said? You can't give me eye contact. You didn't mind kicking me out of here the other day based on your puffed up gaslighting. But today I'm actually addressing you. You never responded to me. I said, cite me the rule, cite me the policy. You and your assistant, neither one have responded. Not one of you and your assistant have responded to me. You're gaslighting us. We know the laws that you're violating of decorum now. And every time you speak down to us after we're done, you're violating decorum again. Thank you. Continue. It will help us because
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
enjoyable to come to these meetings and be abused
Cheryl Legalbo, Ashim Ray, Nathan Allen.
Hello, I'm Cheryl Legalbo. I'm representing myself. Obviously, I'm here because I'm not happy with y'all. But I do want to say to Chairman Galvin that I am so sorry to hear the terrible story of the disgusting behavior of the adults who spit on you when you were a kid in New York. There's never an excuse for that. So I just want to put that out there. On to my speech. I represent myself. I appreciate your recent efforts to improve the appropriateness of your library collections. I encourage you to take a long-haul mindset. The long-standing practice of ignoring input from library card holders is not going to end in a day unless you replace the employees who are accustomed to a lack of accountability to parents and concerned community members. For example, I filled out a form on August 4th, 2023 to have an egregious adult-themed graphic novel, that's a hardback comic book, have that moved from the 12 to 18-year-old section to the adult section. And to this day, it's still on the same shelf. I would be happy to share the year, plus worth of emails to public library employees who reject feedback from the public. In fact, my librarian told me to stop emailing. If your employees were responsive to our concerns, I wouldn't be here today addressing you. Thank you.
Ashim Ray, Nathan Allen, Louis Mar Garza.
Hello, I'm a Tempe resident. I'm Ashim Ray, I believe.
Your microphone is not on.
Hello, I'm Ashim Ray. I'm District 2 Tempe resident. I believe you are my person. And I'm speaking on the ADA violations and equal access denied because I'm a disabled person. I go to ACBVI, Arizona Center for the Blind and Visually Impaired, and I should be in class today, but I'm coming to speak on why I can't go in class and watch a video and watch this from my portal at home. I have to come all the way across town. It's so hard. You don't have a place. You have to walk very far. I mean, it's ridiculous. So let the record show that the board continues to deny remote participation to members of the public, even those with medical and disabilities like myself related reasons. As part of you have removed up to 80% of the agenda items of what you call constant agenda, thus removing the very public you are supporting to be serving input. You should be called the non-constant category because you're remote and you're constant. Another First Amendment right denied to you, hide behind the First Amendment to keep your porn authors and books out of the children's section of the library, which I have my child here who also lives in that district. Your double standards is flaming as you and complicit in denying webinar access to not only the general public, but you also violate the ADA by also denying people like Don Hiet, a disabled man who was denied a webinar access, though you have allowed the handicap parking to take place under your watch. You are the ones who approve what happens as far as zoning, yet you still refuse equal access. Hello, I can't hear myself.
Thank you, sir.
Equal access.
Madam Clerk.
Nathan Allen, Louis Mar Garza,
Not my
Maya
First Amendment
Ray.
right, the freedom of speech. I should have it.
Hello, Mr. Galvin. I live in your district. I'm a Mesa resident, and since 2019, I've basically been treated like garbage, been thrown out on the street, also been denied my Second Amendment rights because Mesa police lied when they arrested me while I was defending myself from a drug dealer, and they let said drug dealer walk and turned around and said, quote, "You're hearing voices in your head, aren't you?" while arresting me. And ran me through the mental health system on top of bogus misdemeanor charges, which I ended up doing 10 days in Florence, a level 3 or 4 correctional facility. So, at the same time, I already own 5 firearms, which I can't legally touch because of the unconstitutional mental health court, which has been around since 2004 and does not have any historical tradition regarding New York Pistol Association versus Bruin. This has not been remedied. Those officers are still on the force, and that person has not been arrested or caught. Therefore, you are violating my rights under U.S. Code Title 18, subsection 242. And as far as relying on the police, don't do that. You can't. Warren versus District of Columbia says that police do not have a duty to protect the general public or individual citizens.
Madam Clerk.
Louis Mar Garza, Maya Ray, Kyler Horton.
Louis Marsvetti Garza. Just to let you know, I personally, being homeless, have spent over $200 in Uber to bring these individuals to be able to speak to you when they could have well done it through webinar. So I'd like a reimbursement as some of the agenda items that you had today, and I will present the proof. I would like to bring this up again because under number 37, under the consent agenda, which you did not allow us to speak on, you're putting together a task force to prevent child abduction. And I will remind everybody we are under the continuity of government. I would like to know, under this particular one, that if they catch an individual who has abducted a child and they go to the child and say, "Did he touch you?" And they will say, "Yes, but in a masturbatory way." Well, we can't help you because this law here allows them to do that. Now on to number 75, which you also did not let us talk about. I am reading on here on number 75 that the Arizona Donor Association, the DNA, is wanting to rent 400 square feet to do some autopsies, or rather tissue and organ collection. And the owners are Greg Pivaroto from Pima and Kathy Mills from Maricopa. And the agreement that you have with them, and I'd like to read it real quickly towards the end on the hyperlink, it says that 400 square feet that they will collect bone, cartilage, saphenous veins, and other blood vessels, heart valve, and pericardium from non-heart beating cadaver donors. Do you have an agreement with Planned Parenthood on this? Are these abortion babies that you are now making agreement that they can collect all this from non-heart beating cadaver donors? Please specify what the agreement means. Either one of you, Michael, Oscar, either one of you, none of you? Is this an agreement with Planned Parenthood or anybody else who is going to take
Thank you,
children
Madam Clerk.
and rip them apart?
Maya Ray, Kyler Horton, Lori Baroni.
Hello, my name is Maya Ray. I'm 16 years old and hello, my name is Maya Ray. I'm a junior in high school and I'm representing myself. I am one of the 1 in 3 girls who have experienced sexual assault. It's a horrifying truth that 1 in 5 boys face the same fate. In truth, 19% of youth between ages of 10 and 17 have been sexually assaulted or harassed. 1/3 of them boys, 2/3 girls. Predators know how vulnerable children are. They take advantage of their innocence, their trust, and their lack of understanding. Young minds are like open doors, eager to learn, grow, and absorb the world around them. When they're exposed to trauma, especially at a young age, it can permanently damage their ability to trust, to learn, and to develop in healthy ways. Children also deserve safe spaces at home, at school, and in the media they consume. These are supposed to be the places they grow, not where they're harmed. My own nephew was just 6 years old when he was first exposed to sexually inappropriate and violent content. This is not rare, this is not okay, but this is today. This is the reality we face as a community. Children are being exposed to things their minds and hearts are not ready for. It is the responsibility of parents, educators, and those in positions of power to protect them. This starts with making sure explicit or violent content is kept where it belongs, away from children. Children are naturally curious, open-hearted, and trusting. That's what makes them so vulnerable. They don't have the tools yet to process harmful content or recognize manipulation. Predators exploit this. They slip into the gaps where supervision is missing and where protections fall short. That's why it's important that environments are meant to support learning, like libraries and schools that are truly safe. These are places where young minds are shaped. And if we aren't careful, those places can become where innocence is lost.
Maya, thank you. Hold on, Maya, I'm sorry we cannot respond to you directly, but I just want to say thank you for sitting all these hours and sharing your story and your bravery and for being very eloquent. And I'm sure all members of the board feel the same way, and you're in our prayers. Thank you.
How do I turn the mic on? Is it on? Okay. Hello, my name is Kyler. I'm 16 years old, and I'm also a junior in high school. Statistics show that 1 in 3 girls and 1 in 5 boys are sexually abused before they turn 18. I am one of those statistics. I also have a younger brother. He's 12. And the average age children are exposed to sexually explicit material is 11. The thought of this petrifies me. Children are becoming desensitized to the more sexual and violent nature of society far too young, and the normalization of this baffles me. It's something we need to talk about. Too often, people overlook the long-term impact this has on young minds in the way it distorts their understanding of sex entirely. This issue goes beyond simply confusing children about what healthy intimacy looks like. It actively increases their vulnerability to predators who are adept to exploiting that confusion. Often, it's really, I don't know, I'm going off script, but I don't think that people understand that when you have sexually explicit material in front of children, it makes it so normal in their minds. So when somebody else touches them, they're not gonna think of that as, oh, that's wrong, that shouldn't have been happening. It is so frequent and not talked about at all, how other kids frequently do touch other kids, and it's horrible. And having pornographic material or anything not safe for work in children's sections, especially as young as they are, is going to do nothing but cause so much like child-on-child sexual assault. And they're both victims in that situation, and there's nothing to remedy that. There needs to be more things put in place. I'm so grateful for the fact that you guys are actually caring about the situation and trying to do something about it and having plans in place for it, but there needs to be more done, in my opinion. Thank you.
Kyler, thank you. Just like what we echoed for Maya, thank you so much for your bravery, and you're both eloquent public speakers. Madam Clerk.
Lori Baroni, last speaker, Kristen Vale.
I would just like to say God bless you both for your bravery to come up here and speak on the subject. Thank you so much. We've been fighting this battle here for more than 2 years, so I think it helps to hear from actual victims. Maybe we'll listen now thoroughly. So again, I want to bring us back to Thomas Galvin's statements from February 26th, that in the article, I don't remember who this is, you put out a communication. You promised an independent review of Maricopa County election processes and procedures. We are united in our belief that Maricopa County administers free and fair elections. So that, sir, tells me that you are the election denier, because those of us who worked the elections, who did hand counts, who did signature verifications, we know that there's enough fraud that has happened that you're the election denier, sir. So to disparage people who've seen it with our own hands, and that includes you, Ms. Ms. McGee and Ms. Lesko. I appreciate that you're willing to step up and try to help with election integrity, but we know there's fraud here in Maricopa County, and to deny it is a crime, in my opinion. Also, let's see. Oh, by the way, I got to tell you, Thomas Galvin and Debbie Lesko, what a shame to see you guys going after Justin Heap on social media. Isn't that beneath you to bring a fight out and attack him on social media? You should be better than that as elected officials. Okay, regarding the Barry Dunn thing, let me just finish saying that we know that they've entered into a class action settlement for that data breach of over 1.1 million individuals. And personally, I'm sick to death of data breaches. You guys are all accepting it like it's perfectly normal. I don't. Our data is our priceless, precious information. Nobody else deserves to be breaching it, and then treating them like it's okay because it's just the way things are is unconscionable. So to hire people that are going to audit themselves, shame on you. Shame on you for letting them audit the audit. And let's just say, one day, one vote, hand count ballots only.
Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Kristen Vale. No other speakers,
Okay,
Chairman.
thank you. We're going to move on to item 105, Supervisor Summary of Current Events. I'm going to look to my right. I'm going to go with County Manager and then District 1.
Nothing today, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Supervisor Stewart, and then I'm going to go to Supervisor Grotto.
Thank you, Chairman. And Kyler and Maya, thanks so much for sharing your thoughts. When we have children coming to their government asking for help and for protection, that tells me everything I need to know. So thank you for being brave enough to be here. Hey, you know what? I've got some really great news. I want to kind of give a shout out to one of our employees, Jessica White. Dr. Jessica White from the Maricopa County Department of Public Health was selected as the national recipient for the 2025 Council of State and Territorial Epidemiologists Rising Leader Award. I was scared I wasn't going to be able to pronounce that. After reviewing nearly 1,000 nominations, Dr. White was selected for this year's award based on her exceptional leadership, subject matter expertise in epidemiology and informatics, and unwavering growth mindset that she applies to herself and to her team. Dr. White is humble, knowledgeable, and effective public health leader who has risen through the local public health system and trusted collaborator and true subject matter expert.
Supervisor Stewart is speaking, please.
She exemplifies a true leader in her steadfast commitment to her employees, partners, and the residents and visitors of Maricopa County. Congratulations, Dr. White. You know, for my talking points, last week I was able to attend the Gilbert Chamber of Commerce Business Leaders 2025 Annual Business Awards, and I want to thank CEO Sarah Watts, Matthew Harrison, the new incoming chair, and Dan Kovich for this event and for highlighting and honoring the local business leaders in that community. You know, small business and large businesses are the lifeblood of any economic development and community. And so we're grateful for the work that they're doing there. And then last Friday, I was able to hang out with the men and women of our Sheriff's Department at Coffee with the Sheriff at Black Rifle Community. Actually, it's always important to visit with the men and women that are actually on the ground, right? And to listen to the challenges that they may have, the things that they're appreciative of. I think they feel the support with the latest budget vote that we had for the pay raises and the bonuses, as well as investment in their equipment and staffing and the recruitment. So it was good to hear that. There's obviously always work to be done, so it was good to hang out with them, and I appreciate Black Rifle Coffee for sponsoring that. And then on July 4th, the City of Chandler is hosting their All-American Bash at the Dr. A.J. Chandler Park from 7 to 9:30. There will be live music, yard games, food vendors, and fireworks starting at 8:15. So choose to go to the Chandler event versus shooting off your own fireworks. We got a report last week on the air quality that happens. You know, I've lived it in my neighborhood. I love seeing the kids with their sparklers and things like that, and we definitely, I love that. But when these personal fireworks are going off in the cul-de-sacs and in the neighborhoods, the smoke settles at basically eye level, And for 2 or 3 days, we have we have the worst air quality in the entire country during that time. So just something to be mindful of. Maybe you shut it down this year, save that money, donate it, whatever you want to do. But go to the events in your local towns, and that's all I've got for today. And have a great 4th of July. You know, I mean, that is the celebration of our Declaration of Independence and the birth of our constitutional republic. It's my second favorite holiday after Constitution Day. And so I'll be celebrating with friends and family. So be safe. Save the fireworks for forever. See ya.
Thank you, Supervisor Stewart. I'm going to go to Supervisor Grotto and then Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I keep it real quick. We are extremely busy. Our summer program is up and going. Last night had a little over probably a couple hundred kids out there playing basketball. We'll have this coming Saturday, we'll have the whole group, probably nearly 500, come do basketball, volleyball. We'll also have baseball, summer ball starting. We have baseball going on as well. And so keeping busy, doing everything we can to keep young people who are home during summertime. It's hot. It's hot. Keeping them cool, safe, and doing something productive. Put the video games down and go have fun. So fun times.
Thank you. Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Very quick but heartfelt shout out to the Office of the Medical Examiner. Thank you, Dr. Johnstone, Amy Rex, and the staff who helped a constituent's family in a very much a time of need. Lots to that story. By the time my office called, it was already unfolding. Thank you to the Office of the Medical Examiner. I also wanted to make people aware that my neighborhood, Butler Park is what the locals call it, but it's Royal Palm Park, is having a 4th of July parade, Independence Day parade. It's very kid-focused, kid-driven, very patriotic. It's obviously the morning of the 4th of July, just so we can be sure it's as hot can be. And we march and we think about patriotism and we celebrate our freedom to do so. My staff and I have been very busy attending the North Glen Square community meeting to learn, follow up and learn more about the issues that community is facing with crime, prostitution, trespassing, lots and lots going on in that I-17 corridor. My staff and I also were fortunate to tour the new Freedom Center, which is a converted hotel in my district, which provides a reentry path for those individuals who've completed their debt to society and are wanting to reenter society with a job, with prospects, with a real focus going forward. I did a lot of work on related issues like the Department of Child Safety, because so many of those families were justice and prison system involved. They're doing really good work at New Freedom, so I wanted to give them a shout out. My staff attended an open house for the Blue Eagle Lane project in Anthem. Thank you all who came, who took in the information, provided comment. And last night, I'm taking these out of order, we attended the East Sunny Slope Block Watch, which is always a complete and total riot. It's just funny. But we had so much fun. We said goodbye to Lieutenant Warren, who has been our LT, our lieutenant on staff with the community for a couple of years. We said hello to the incoming lieutenant. Lieutenant Warren is now Commander Warren, going to serve down at Phoenix Police Headquarters. We were overrun by police officers, new trainees, and just a plethora of wonderfully involved and active neighborhood leaders. I don't want to pick, but of all my neighborhood groups and business alliances, it's one of my real favorites. Lastly, if I can direct your attention to the screen, my staff and I, Carissa, participated in After Dark in the park this weekend. The winds were blowing 100 miles an hour, but they let up when the sun went down. And the Black Mountain Community Alliance in the city of Phoenix and Vice Mayor O'Brien's office put on one heck of a drone show. My office in Maricopa County received top branding, and what a great way to represent Maricopa County in a safe, quiet, beautiful display. Fireworks are a huge problem in my district, and I am hoping that people will understand that there are better ways to celebrate, because I don't want to wake up on the morning of July 4th or 5th and feel like I am in a war zone, but that's how it feels. So be safe, celebrate our country, and celebrate your freedoms. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Supervisor Lesko.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As many of you know, in my district, there's a big zoning case that's coming up, and it's BNSF Railway wants to build an intermodal facility. And so since the last meeting, I have met with both sides. I've met with BNSF Railway representatives, and I've met with the neighbors that will be near the BNSF Railway proposed project. And I, again, encourage anyone that's listening, if you're for or against this, to email my office at district4@maricopa.gov. I also, since last meeting, met with the executive director of the Maricopa County Industrial Development Authority to get a better understanding of the ins and outs of that. I met a wonderful woman at the Surprise Chamber meeting, and as many of you know, I am a survivor of domestic violence from my first marriage. And this woman also survived domestic violence, and now she offers services to women that are in domestic violence situations with financial literacy. So I was meeting with her to try to figure out how we can get the word out for women that are in this terrible situation, because usually what happens has happened with me in my first marriage. My ex-husband would take total control over the finances, and I had no control over them, and that's what happens with most women. I also got to go to a really fun event. It was a fashion show over in Sun City West, and I posted about it on my social media today, and I got to dress up in this really cool hat, which I decided that I was going to buy, and we had fun. I was there. I was sitting next to former Governor Jan Brewer and former County Recorder Helen Purcell, and I have to tell you, Helen Purcell looks the same, and she said she's going to be 90 years old this year, and kudos to her and Governor Brewer. They looked absolutely fantastic. I attended a legislative district meeting, which was well attended by hundreds of people, and spoke there, and that was in Peoria. I also went to my Transportation Policy Committee hearing, and as Blue will attest, we talked about a lot of transportation issues and voted on them. And by the way, I agree with you, we need more bus stops. And I want to give kudos again to my employee, Jim Bull, who's sitting out in the audience. As many of you know, I met Jim. He was my pastor at Palmcroft Baptist Church when I met him, and now he's a retired pastor, and now he goes out in the community for me, and he goes to all kinds of events that you can see on social media. He goes to ribbon cuttings, he goes to district meetings, he goes all over the place. So I thank you for representing me well, and I yield back.
Thank you, Supervisor Lesko. Thank you, everybody. You know, when you serve as chairman, I think the most interesting part, you get a peek behind the process of how a budget gets put together, and you work closely with budget staff. And this week, what I think is the most important day of the entire county's calendar is voting for the budget. and all 5 of us up here have a standard of fiscal responsibility and making sure that we're taking good care of our taxpayer dollars. And we're extremely proud of the budget that was produced this week, and it's been getting good attention, and deservedly so. This is a budget that is growing less than the rate of inflation, but at the same time, we've cut the overall tax rate for the 5th year in a row, but also we provided substantial and much needed and overdue salary raises to our sheriff deputies and to our emergency dispatchers. And I want to particularly point out someone here in the audience today, which is Chris Clark, who has sat here patiently throughout the entire meeting. I heard him on radio this morning in an interview with Mike Broomhead on KTAR, and he's doing everything he can to advocate for the interests of his colleagues at the Sheriff's Office. And I know this board has enjoyed working with him, and I think we have a really good working relationship, and he has provided valuable insight and feedback on the perspective of people working at the Sheriff's Office, particular deputies. And also want to thank the leadership of Sheriff Jerry Sheridan, who's worked with us throughout this entire budget process. But as also I've told people who have particular interest in how law enforcement is treated, is that this is not just a one-off event. This is a years-long process that we believe it's going to take us years to make sure that we're serving these folks right, because they've been doing such a good job of serving us. So this is not just one time where we're going to pat ourselves in the back. We're going to keep taking a look at this. And I know whoever's chairman next year and the subsequent 2 years after that, while we're all here serving our 4-year term, we're going to do everything we can to make sure that they're taken care of from that perspective, because frankly, you're not going into this job for the money. You're going in to serve your fellow citizens and your fellow human beings. Also, secondly, I just want to again point out that I'm really proud of this vote today and the entire process that we did for this comprehensive review of elections. There's not many Board of Supervisors around the country or county commissioners that would do something like this. This is a huge undertaking, but this also shows that this is a board that's brave to take this on and to see what we can do that's particularly better. But there's one colleague in particular that I want to thank and acknowledge, and that's Supervisor Lesko. This is an issue that was very important for me, but when Supervisor Lesko and I met before we came on board in terms of our swearing in, she made it clear that this was extremely important to her. And this issue is important to all 5 of us, but she has shown such diligence and dedication and leadership on this issue. And there's various issues that are important to different supervisors, but this one is particularly important to Debbie Lesko. And so that's why I was really offended, even though it's only 2 people who made those scurrilous attacks and accusations against her today. But I don't want that to color the good work that she has done, because Debbie Lesko's conservative credentials are unquestioned. And her commitment to her constituents and her commitment to the Constitution is unquestioned. And it has just been an honor to work alongside her, with her on this issue. And I just want to say, Debbie, thank you very much. This comprehensive review really is because of Debbie Lesko, and it's been an honor to work with her, with my colleagues in all of this. And then finally, we have the 4th of July upon us. And, you know, someone asked Benjamin Franklin after the Constitution was written, what have we got? And he said, a republic if you can keep it. And so I'm going to close here with what our founding fathers wrote in the final paragraph of the Declaration of Independence. And no one's going to say that America was perfect on that day. No one's going to say America has been perfect, and no one's going to say America is perfect today. But we have a document that allows us to strive to do better, and that's the Constitution. And here's how they close with the Declaration of Independence. We, therefore, the representatives of the United States of America, in General Congress assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions, do, in the name and authority of the good people of these colonies, solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies are, and of right, ought to be free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved, and that as free and independent states they have full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and to do all the other acts and things which independent states may be of right to do. And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. Happy 4th of July. Thank you. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.